All right, are we letting people in?
It
Or is
automatically lets them in.
Okay, so I can just begin.
Yes, you can.
All right, I'm calling this meeting to order. Everybody please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Patty, roll call, please.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Here.
Mrs. Saylor,
Here.
Mrs. Corey,
Here.
Mr. Dilks,
Here.
Colonel Hensky,
Here.
Dr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Lepsis,
Here.
Dr. McCloy,
Here.
Mrs. Shoemaker.
Hold on one sec. I believe we have to elevate her from the other grouping. Kyle, do you see her name?
Hold on, it's a big list now. Can you if you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Vicky
elevate
Shoemaker.
Vicky
Yep.
Shoemaker.
Yep, give me a sec. I'll find her. Hold on.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is to announce that adequate notice of this meeting was given in the following manner. On December 29th, 2020, notice of this meeting was transmitted to the Burlington County Times and the Central Record, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the office of the Business Administrator Board Secretary. Additional notification was made on February 10th, 2021, in the Burlington County Times to inform the public that this meeting would be held remotely utilizing Zoom. Notification was also posted on both the district website and the district app. I direct the Business Administrator, Board Secretary to enter this statement into the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, to begin our meeting, we're going to start with a presentation from the Education Foundation of Tabernacle Township by Ms. Jennifer Husted. Can we bring her up as a presenter, please?
Hello?
Hi, Jen.
Oh, can you hear me? There we go.
There you are.
Okay. So the Education Foundation wanted to take this opportunity to present to Sean Bannon the $1,000 grant that we received from the Investors Foundation. So we had we're sending out grant applications left and right to get funding for anything and everything. And Investors was kind enough to grant us $1,000 for our social emotional learning professional development grant that we submitted back in August. So Sean, I will make sure that you get the check, but just wanted to formally present that to you guys. And, as always, we're happy to continue to look for funding so that we have money to do some great things.
Jen, thank you so much for all your hard work, to you and to the Ed Foundation. Really greatly appreciate everything you do to find ways for us to have additional sources, provide things for our students, our staff, and our community. And really much appreciated. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Okay. We'll continue on with the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of January 19th, 2021. Can I get a motion?
Vicky.
Second, Jones.
Vicky? Jones. Any questions or comments? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. for the executive session on January 19th, 2021. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Kevin.
I'll second.
Sec,
Kevin and
There we go.
Dan?
that's okay.
Any questions or comments?
Patty, I just want to confirm, these are the updated ones with the
Yes.
vote out at 800. Thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes,
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Abstain.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like Sean, he has something he'd like to say.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening. When the school year began, we were proud to be one of the districts in New Jersey who have been able to put a plan in place that enabled us to resume in-person learning and open our doors to our students and staff on time. Our initial plan enabled us to begin in our hybrid model for most of our students, while enabling those in our self-contained special education classes to resume 5-day in-person instruction. Based on feedback and concerns from our staff and parents, we devised and implemented a plan to bring our students in resource room classes in for instruction 5 days a week soon after. We have continued to prioritize the health and well-being of our students, staff, and community through every step of our approach this year. We have heard your concerns and continue to adapt. The full implementation of live streaming across all grades is just our next milestone in our continued effort to enhance our instructional program on our way to returning to the 5-day full-day program our educational system is built upon. We know and acknowledge that our current educational environment is not ideal for all students, and we are taking steps to get to the next milestone. Thank you to those of you who responded to our survey about a move to 5 days of in-person instruction. Your responses are vital to our ability to plan and implement our next steps. The path to achieving this goal must be done in a manner that enables us to maintain an environment where the kids are safe and they are learning. We want to ensure our plan does not lead to an increased rate of viral spread, quarantines, and school closures. In an effort to achieve this goal, we have been in frequent contact with the representatives from the Department of Health and the Department of Education. The employment opportunity you may have seen posted for elementary teachers and is on the agenda tonight as well, is to enable us to continue on this path. We hear you and your feedback to see return to 5-day in-person instruction. And this posting is an effort to hire additional teachers so we can bring students back while maintaining the social distancing recommendations that have kept us all safe this year. As of Thursday, our region has finally returned to the yellow/moderate status for the first time in a very long time. This shows that our region is heading in the right direction. The first change that this brings about is a reduction in quarantine time from 14 days to 10 days for close contacts. We're hopeful that this will lead to more positive news from the Department of Health and the Department of Education. We are always assessing how to progress forward so we can all return to the normalcy that we so greatly desire. To that end, we are going to schedule a town hall meeting on Wednesday, March 3rd, where we look forward to continuing to work with you to share ideas and collaborate on how we can all achieve our mutual goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. I'd like to also add to that, I'm going to read something shortly, very short. The Tabernacle School District faces significant financial challenges caused by substantial multi-year reductions in state aid, a sizable increase in the district's share of health insurance premium costs resulting from a new law limiting employee contributions, and many unbudgeted expenses for costs related to the COVID-19 pandemic. To date, the district has avoided subcontracting work performed by employees, but it must now consider doing so with respect to the assistance in order to responsibly address these significant financial challenges. The motion under discussion simply authorizes the giving of notice required by a new law enacted last summer. Specifically, the district is required to give 90 days notice to the Tabernacle Education Association before it requests bids or solicits contractual proposals for a subcontracting agreement. This first step is designed to afford the association an opportunity to meet and consult with the district to discuss the decision to subcontract and to engage in negotiations over the impact of the subcontracting. The board welcomes the association's input in this respect. So at this time, I'm going to open up the meeting to public comments on agenda items only. Please state your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. No one may speak more than once on the same topic. Please keep your comments respectful and non-defamatory. Keep in mind that it may not always be possible or appropriate for the board to directly answer questions during public comment periods. And at this time, you may speak on agenda items only. Now, I'm looking at the attendees, and we're up to 225 attendees. I'd really like to try to keep this to about an hour. So I'm going to be a stickler about the 3 minutes. I'd like as many people to get, I'd like everybody to get to say what they want to say, but we really need to keep it to about 3 minutes, folks. All right. So I'm going to start. I see some hands. I'm going to start with John Druding. He's the first one on my list. Mr. Druding, can you hear us?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi. Oh, you're not John. Sorry.
I try. It's my husband's computer. It's Larissa Druding. How are you?
Good. How are you? Please state your name and your address, please.
Yep, it's Larissa Druding, 14 San Way, of course, in Tabernacle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on the personnel. I believe that's item number 3.
Okay.
Regarding our district's budget, I understand there's no good options, only less bad ones. When I first moved to Tabernacle 9 years ago, our enrollment, I believe, was well over 1,000. And now I believe we're in the upper 600. Tabernacle is a small district, and an enrollment drop like this is devastating to a community of our size. Small schools feel budget cuts the worst. And then on top of that, we're forced to make cuts from the state. Think about everything we've done the past few years. We've already made aggressive cuts. We've have declining numbers. We had our student to teacher ratio with the special education department. That was adjusted. We merged positions in administration, which was a wise move. We moved most of our students and staff to one building, but unfortunately it's not enough. We still have to make more cuts. Our hands are tied. Our Board of Education and Administration, they do put our kids first, although it might not seem like that right now in the position we are all in. They have to make an unpopular decision. We all appreciate and care about our powers. They truly care about our kids. They've developed relationship with our kids, and I know that's important. I'm an educator myself, over 20 years. I know how essential a trusting relationship is between a para and a child. However, we have to make cuts. Something has to go. Many districts have made this move. Southampton, Chemung. I teach in Beverly. We're not privatized, but our paras don't get benefits. They don't work full time. Otherwise, we'd be bankrupt. I wish we weren't in the position we are, but we're in it and we have to do something. I don't know what the alternative is. Losing teachers, closing the district. With what we are now, I just wanted to say, I understand why the board is thinking about privatizing our staff. And with the level of cuts that we're facing, this might be the least bad option. So my question was, does it help to cut benefits? Does it help to keep everyone under 29 hours? Is there another least bad option? 'Cause
You okay?
Excuse me?
You stopped talking. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I was saying, my question to you, because I'm almost at my 3 minutes. I was saying, is there another, does it help to cut benefits? I just wanted to throw that idea out there. I didn't know if there's another, way, but I do understand why it might come down to outsourcing. I understand that.
Thank you. Just please remember, it might not always be the time to answer questions during public comment periods. Do we have Jen Husted?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Jen. Please state your
Hi.
name and address.
Jennifer Husted, 23 Goose Pond Road. So I wanted to speak tonight and say a couple of things. The first part of this is me speaking as a parent and a parent of a child who relies on a paraprofessional every day to help him be successful at school. We have had wonderful paras throughout our 8 years, almost 9 years in Tabernacle schools. They are on the front lines day to day, and they are awesome. So tonight, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Miss Steph specifically for her dedication, hard work, tireless patience, and ability to see through the weeds and see the goodness inside, because there are definitely days when it is hard to see the goodness. And I know that. Miss Steph, you have done wonders for Dominic and we appreciate you. And I wanted to say that publicly. I have seen a lot of emotional discussions the past few days and I understand them completely. I am just so angry and disheartened that the state couldn't give us a pass even for this year with everything else that's happening in our world. I know that we are losing another $600,000 from our budget this year, on top of the hundreds of thousands we have already had to cut. Losing the grand total of 2.6 million is honestly unfathomable. I also know that these decisions are not made lightly, no matter what anyone thinks. The state is decimating our school, and by the time they're done with us, we will be lucky to have a school district left, and that is not an exaggeration. It is heartbreaking every single time we have to go through this for everyone involved. So my second point comes from me as the president of the foundation, and it ties in with the state funding cuts. While the foundation can't fund recurring expenses like salaries and benefits, the foundation is committed to continuing to search for funding that will help the district in every way that we can. The more that we can help pay for one-time expenses, hopefully the more the district will be able to use its budget for the things that we cannot pay for. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Kimberly Scott Hayden. Kimberly?
Yes, hi, good evening. I am Kimberly Scott Hayden. I am from Union, New Jersey. I'm the president of the East Orange Maintenance Association, and I stand in solidarity tonight with the paraprofessionals in Tabernacle. It is a sad day that during this time in the middle of a pandemic, that people fear that it is okay to inflict irreparable harm on members during a time where it's so uncertain. Now, no one during a pandemic who has entrusted their children to be educated should be faced with privatization, which results in the unemployment line, welfare, food pantries, possible homelessness, and loss of health care, etc. These individuals work with students every day to make sure that they have the necessary assistance to be academically prepared, to be productive and successful in their educational journey. Many of them live in the very community in which they work. They attended schools in that community and have vested interest in the said community. With federal monies currently being part of the President Biden stimulus package and $350 billion going to public schools, $150 billion of that is to maintain staffing levels. for essential employees. I believe that the board at this present time, you're acting hastily without compassion and moral compass. I urge you to rethink your actions. Let's take a step back. Let's wait to see what type of funding we receive from the federal government, and let's save these people's jobs, their careers, their livelihoods. I'm asking you to rethink your actions this evening. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Thank
could you state the organization that you were with again, please?
I'm the president of the East Orange Maintenance Association with the East Orange School District.
Thank you very much. Ms. Morrow? Hi, Brittany.
Can you hear me, see me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Brittany Morrow, Collaboratory is my address. I am devastated to see that on the agenda tonight, line item 3 under personnel, that the board will be voting to explore the privatization of our assistants. This is not the right decision for Tabernacle. Our assistants are the backbone of our district. Most of our assistants live right here in town and they're part of our community. They know our students and treat them as if they were their own children. They know the students' families. They see them at local events. They see them at Murphy's and Russo's, Nixon's, and our kids' faces light up when they see them and they run over to talk to them. Our assistants don't just know what our kids need and how to support them. They know our kids as people, as individuals. They know their interests, their hobbies, their personalities, their likes, their dislikes. They know just the right thing to say or do to make every single student shine. They are the constants in our students' lives, working with them year after year, developing relationships with them that take time and care to build. Our students trust them and rely on them. And it's important to note that our assistants are working with groups of students who need that consistency in order to continue to thrive. And now, in the middle of a pandemic, when there have been so many changes to our students' lives already, we're going to force our students into having to make yet another change when it's not even a necessary one. There's other options. We're going to force our children to start over and take away the relationships that have become the cornerstone of this district. We will not get the same quality of people, the same consistency, the same love and care and respect from whoever comes from some outside company that can't even necessarily guarantee access to the same people every day. Plus, privatized companies do not provide all of the training to their staff that our school district provides. So their staff isn't nearly as equipped to handle situations that come up with our kids. And that's just how our students are affected. It's just not worth it. Our staff will be greatly affected too. We have developed routines and rapport with our assistants. We've developed systems that work for our students and help make every day go smoothly. Our assistants make a huge difference in our classrooms, and their love and support and care doesn't stop there. They get involved in so many outside of school initiatives and events. They are involved in every fiber of this district. They aren't just employees working their shift and going home. They're the heart and soul of this town. Collectively, they have over 160 years of experience just with our Tabernacle kids. And that's not even including the other experience they brought with them from other places. We need each and every one of them. Phyllis Wills, Sue Logan, Janet Booty, Amy Herzog, Deb Von Nessen, Liz Kaiser, Amy DiOrio, Sandy Bogley, Jamie Stanton, Wendy Riley, Steph Tyberski, Nicole Langton, Darlene Pernici, Sue Jaggard, Marcia Johnson, and Renee Nichols. Each and every one of them has made our district a better place, and I've had the honor to work with each of them personally throughout the various roles I played in Tabernacle. And I'll tell you right now, they have made me a better educator, a better team member, a better person, and they've gotten all of us through some really challenging years, not just this one. And we truly cannot afford to lose them. We need to keep our Tabernacle family intact. We need to do what's best for these kids. Please do not entertain the idea of privatization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Morrow. The next one is Donna O'Malley. Hi, Miss O'Malley.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Please state your
All
name and address, please.
Donna O'Malley, Newberry Drive, Southampton, no longer the TES school. As a recent retiree from this school district, I am speaking against the privatization of the assistants. This motion affects all of the assistants currently employed by the Board of Ed. The 16 of them hold positions as special education assistants, educational assistants for the autistic, kindergarten assistants, and classroom assistants. Your assistants work with the most vulnerable population, the special education students. The assistants are hired to work with those students who have IEPs, the autistic, the physically handicapped, and those who have delays in their learning abilities. A small percentage of these assistants receives health benefits because they are under the 25-hour threshold set in the contract. Our kindergarten assistants help the teachers acclimate our newest learners to the school environment, as our classroom usually contains 21 or more 5-year-olds. 2 hands just aren't enough with 21 5-year-olds. And these folks are part-time and work less than 4 hours a day. Since COVID caused the shutdown of our buildings, followed by the inception of virtual and hybrid learning, our most at-risk students, those with IEPs, have been struggling to find continuity and security in a very scary world. These assistants help to provide that stability and security. Some of these women have been with the students since they attended our preschool handicap program at ages 3 and 4. 50% of them live in Tabernacle and have a stake in the success of the students. The assistants see their parents and grandparents in church or at the food store. They have helped direct these parents when they have accompanied their children to school events like the book fair, the ice cream social, the curriculum fair, and our fitness nights. Due to these interactions, the parents feel more comfortable knowing their children are being helped by these folks every day. Do you think they would feel the same way with an employees of a private company? Would employees of a private company have the same sense of responsibility or stake in the success of their charges? I know you have probably talked to local superintendents who have privatized their assistants, and they've said it's fine, but have you talked to the teachers whose students it has impacted? They have a completely different take on its effectiveness. These positions are not frivolous. These are essential positions to ensure our students' success. Isn't that the school's focus, student success? Each year for the last several years, Tabernacle has lost hundreds of thousands of dollars due to a bill called S2, which focuses on adjusting school funding. It's horribly unfair. Is a member of your Board of Ed still involved in meeting with the organization Save Our Schools to fight the effects of this bill? Has anyone been in touch with our legislators about the outlandish cuts you have had to make? You should be working this from all angles. In an
Mr.
effort
Muller, your time's almost up.
Okay, I'm not sure. Can I just finish up?
Yep.
I'm not sure what else can be done away with, but we cannot let the future of our students suffer due to these budget cuts. We need to move in another direction, away from cuts that would directly affect the students. We need to strike a budget that does no harm to the students in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's a Danielle. There's no last name listed.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi. Can you
Hi.
state your name and address, please?
Danielle Lopresti Moore, 333 Medford Lakes Road.
Thank you.
I do know some of the board members, but not all of you know me. I was born and raised in Tabernacle, going all through school, starting at kindergarten in this town. I didn't realize it as a student, but later as an adult, I was thankful for the education and support that I received at Tabernacle schools. To fast forward to 2016, my wife and I realized that our son had some developmental delays. After many, many appointments, he was accepted into the special ed preschool. This was the first time that we felt like we were on the right track. Most of you don't know what it's like to have a special ed or special needs child. You feel helpless and sad at times. We all want the best for our children. Having the constant support of teachers and paraprofessionals that know your child and what works specifically for them makes a world of difference. The paraprofessionals at our school are here for our children and for the parents also. So many times, they are the ones that go the extra mile to make sure that our children feel comfortable, safe, while teaching them and helping them grow. Without their support, we would be at a great loss. I would like to draw your attention to other districts that have utilized privatization. In 2017, Buena Vista Township and Atlantic County Board of Ed voted to outsource. The company Insight was in its first of its 3-year deal with the district. The staff reported a convicted felon working in the district as one of Insight's hires. The lack of background checks and in some cases, simple hires on a day-to-day workers that will only make $12 to $13 an hour, where these employees will be quick to jump to any of the best next opportunity that maybe will pay more. They will not care for our kids the way that the current 16 paraprofessionals do. I strongly advocate that you immediately reconsider the idea of outsourcing the paraprofessionals at Tabernacle. Unfortunately, you cannot cut corners while trying to educate our children. I don't want to see anyone out of work. However, you may consider looking into things such as outsourcing janitorial staff and transportation. At this time, Tabernacle has to take a hard look at cutting costs in different areas, not where it will affect our kids the most in their education. Please consider not privatizing our paraprofessionals. They are the school's backbone, and we all need them here at Tabernacle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine Sadowski? Christine, can you hear us?
She appears to be muted.
Christine, can you unmute, please? Hi, can you state your name and address, please? Christine, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Nope, you're muted and we can't hear you. Nope. Should we try somebody else or is she still there?
I'll try somebody else, Meg.
Okay, let's do Ashley Kimball, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you please state your name and address?
Ashley Kimball, 137 Manhasset Trail in Medford Lakes, but I work across the street.
Yep.
I'm here to speak on agenda line item number 3 under personnel. The privatization of our assistants to save money at the cost of our students' education should not be under consideration. Our special education student population have unique learning needs that can only be met with care, compassion, and a genuine investment in their success. They need more to get a fair and equitable education. Those needs include medically trained specific personnel, behaviorally trained specific personnel, and academically skilled personnel to support IEPs, behavioral, and academic modifications. During my year as an inclusion teacher, I worked closely with my team to ensure students' daily needs were met. To do so, our team implemented a highly organized schedule to provide consistency, continuity, and a routine to give our students what they needed most. Without our paraprofessionals who live in our community, are invested in our students, and go beyond their job descriptions, the success of our students wouldn't have been possible. Privatization of our assistants takes away the one thing all special education students need most: consistency. This is one of the reasons the resource classes have remained open daily. These students need daily, weekly, and monthly consistency to succeed. Who will be coming into our classrooms? Will they be properly trained and consistently with the same students? Will they be dedicated to the success of our students, like our Tabernacle assistants who live and work in our Tabernacle community, who work here? Our phenomenal team of assistants go above and beyond to support students, families, and staff, and are an intricate part of our team and Tabernacle family. To turn them away during a pandemic when their students need them more than ever is a mistake. The money saved is not worth the value of our invaluable staff. I realize that this motion is to start the conversation of privatization, but tonight I hope that you hear the concerns and outrage of the school community. On behalf of our students, I am asking you to table line item 3 under personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kimball. I have hashtag support Tabernacle Paris. Not quite sure who that is.
That is me, Jennifer Seitz.
Hi, how are you? Can you
I'm
please
doing well.
state your address, please?
Jennifer Seitz, 34 Powell Place Road. As many of you know, I am an educator. I am a special education teacher. I am also the parent of one of our special education students, and it is very disheartening. I oppose what is put on this agenda to privatize our paraprofessionals. These paraprofessionals, as has been stated many times throughout this evening, work tirelessly to enhance and educate the program, to enhance the education program. As I have stated in my own district, as we face these types of budget cuts, this is not just a budget decision. This is a children decision. This is about the children of Tabernacle. There's a sign hanging in the windows of Tabernacle. We are empathetic. We are innovative. To be empathetic and innovative, we need empathetic and innovative staff members. We have that. We need to look beyond the number, that budget, and we need to figure out another way. I agree with what I have heard. This is not the time to be discussing cutting people like Miss Steph, Miss Amy, those names that you heard Miss Moreau announce. They are a real part of what is making Tabernacle excellent. If we are to bring in and privatize, we are not going to get the same excellence that we have. Those women have made a difference. They work tirelessly with the teachers to make a difference. And if we want Tabernacle to continue to be the excellent school that it is, we must keep these paraprofessionals working alongside our children and with the team members they are working with. We must look beyond it as a budget, find other areas to cut, and then we can continue in the manner in which we are going.
Thank you, Ms. Stilts. So now it's definitely John Druding.
you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. So John Druding, 14 Sun Way. And yes, it is John this time. So regarding the district's budget and paraprofessionals, I know there are no good answers here, only less bad ones. Looking at the budget projections, I know the currently proposed steps are just one of several that we've already been hit with. And unless something changes, there are more dire changes yet to come. I know and trust several of you on the board, and if this action regarding paraprofessionals is the best option that you can think of that is available to us, I will trust your decision. I know privatizing our paraprofessionals will not positively affect our district, but I'm also assuming that the alternative to this move is something that is worse. I know the board and admin are not the enemy, and you're doing what you can with the hand that you're dealt. One question I would ask rhetorically, from your vantage point, what is the best way that we can advocate for our district with the state? I've contacted our lawmakers in the past, but I think it would be best if we could establish some sort of sustained campaign to make our government officials aware of the pain that's being inflicted on districts like ours. So moving on to a more positive topic, the other item mentioned in the agenda, I am excited about the possibility of moving to a 5-day in-person schedule, and would greatly appreciate your support on that move. I'm not a professional educator, but I've clearly seen the impact that the virtual schedule has had on our children and how excited they are when they do have the opportunity to go into school. And again, I'm not a professional educator, but my wife is, and I've seen her go into school 5 full days a week since the pandemic began. And as far as I can tell, the incidence of COVID does not appear to be any higher in her district than it does in ours. I'm hopeful that we can work together to figure out how to make that change and make it happen rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Druding. Lisa Egan?
Hi.
Hi, Ms.
Hi.
Egan.
How are you?
Good.
So I had this whole thing that I wanted to say, and then after Brittany spoke, I really just couldn't even say it any better. But I look at all of you and, you know, heavy is the head who wears the crown. And I know that this is a very difficult thing for the Board of Ed, and I can appreciate that. But I think we need to maybe have further discussions on this. If we could table it, I just wish that you could see the students interacting with our paras. I mean, for years, I've seen it in my classroom, in the halls, at Special Olympics, things that they go to and do on their own time. There's no words for it. If you just would see it and experience it. I really worry. I worry we can't even get consistent substitutes for the teachers. Who are we going to get to come in here and be with these kids on a constant basis, which is what they need? I did speak to teachers in other districts, and they told me that their districts regret this, that it has not been successful. I don't know what the answer is, and I really wouldn't want to be in your shoes. I can't even imagine. This has to be a struggle for all of you. But I'm just thinking maybe we could table this and talk about it a little more. It's really just heartbreaking. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Egan. Debbie Snodgrass? Hi, Deb, you there? I can't hear you. Nope, nothing yet. How about we come back to you? How about Ashley Rogers?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, Mrs. Rogers, could you
Hi.
give us your address, please?
Sure. My name is Ashley Rogers and I'm at 26 Lee Drive. I apologize because I didn't actually have anything formally prepared to say tonight, but after listening to some of the other people speak, I felt like I had to advocate for my son, who is actually in the pre-K program, and he has been in the program since he was 3 years old. And after hearing Mrs. Murrow talk about, list the names of all the different aides, I didn't even realize how many people have been in this district for so long. I grew up in Tabernacle, went to school in Tabernacle. My grandma's a lunch lady. I bleed Tabernacle. When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to have my son go to the same school that I did. And the idea now that the people who have now been comforting him over the last 3 years could be replaced by people who don't even know him is heartbreaking. These people are our community. Like I said, the names I've known, like one of them is literally my neighbor. And when I saw the tears in the eyes of the para when I put my son on the bus today, who has comforted my son many times when he's had tears in his eyes when he's gotten on the bus, it broke my heart, because these are the people that we're trusting our children with. These are the people that we take comfort in knowing care about our children, and there's just got to be a better way. I understand it's not an easy position, but if you're sacrificing this for our children, then what's the point anymore if we can't advocate for our kids? And I guess that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. Kim White?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you
Okay.
state your address, please?
Yeah, sure. Kim White, and I work at both TES and OMS. I too, like Mrs. Egan, had something prepared that I was going to read, but I basically, just in piggybacking on what Mrs. Murrow and also what Mrs. Egan said, I too am very sad about this, and really would love for you to consider tabling this item. Just as a personal experience, I know we've said all about how consistency is so important for all of our kids. I've had numerous occasions this year where I've had to cover certain classes because there has been no subs, as I know other of our staff have had to do. And I walk into a kindergarten class, and honestly, I'm not a kindergarten teacher. I'm clueless. And if it wasn't for those paraprofessionals in there that basically I kind of said, you point, you tell me, what do I need to do? They guided everything so smoothly. There was not a single hitch. And one of the things I just want to emphasize is how much, because these teachers know these kids, they could say, oh, you know what? So-and-so over there, I can tell kind of needs a break right now. I wouldn't have known that. I may have done something that had been a negative impact on that child, but that paraprofessional knew, okay, let's not focus on such and such right now. Let's let him or her have a break, or just take a drink or whatever. And you can only get that with people who have been there and done that and know our kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. White. We have a Tamika Langston Myers. Hi.
Good evening. Hi, I am a part of the Christian School Employee Association in Cumberland County. I am a paraprofessional, but I did want to speak to this issue. So many people have spoken so eloquently about paraprofessionals. So I believe that this board has gotten a gist of what paras mean. And I do say gist because this is a very special skill set it requires to be a paraprofessional, because you have to make connections with so many different children with very special needs. And the trust that is built is paramount to their education, to their welfare, their emotional stability. All of these things is what paraprofessionals bring. I believe certain solutions have been, you know, they talk about contacting political figures and really getting them involved, because we do understand you are in a difficult position. We really do. But what we are saying to you is you are looking at dollars and cents. And what we are asking you to look at are these precious children. We do not want to scar them. Outsourcing, and this is a real, I've seen outsourcing, you know, and it's just because they're coming in to be a substitute, right? These people have no investment. Someone mentioned someone having a criminal background. I had someone in my school, this lady was off her medication. And these are vulnerable children. These are children who have speech impediments and difficulty expressing themselves. And we cannot put them in a position where they're at risk. There is no coming back. There is no, oh, the budget, you know, the governor came through and these billions of dollars came through and yay, we can bring everybody back. But those precious children, those precious babies, the whole reason we're here, right? They have that scar. How do you heal that? Money can't heal that. Maybe time, you know, so I know you're in a difficult position and I appreciate that, but I am asking you to reconsider, to relook at your money, to dive deeper and look and see where other cuts can be made, because there's always other cuts. There's other cuts. They need to be made because paraprofessionals are paramount to these children's emotional and social and educational well-being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Aaron Delaney. Do we have Aaron Delaney?
It's coming up. There's a delay between the time I hit it. Sorry.
That's fine. Aaron, you got to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Number 2 under personnel, with the hiring to reopen. Teachers have been publicly saying that they are working harder than ever, and yet the kids are falling further and further behind. What we have been doing so far this school year and half last year, it obviously is not working. And quite frankly, it would be idiotic to continue any further down this road. If everyone is working to do what's best for the kids, then collectively we really need to do better, and we really need to do it now. Waiting till March 3rd to start the discussion just seems like it's going to put us too far behind. And I guess I don't know if the board can answer about what changes are being made to increase the amount of time, the quality, or the content of the core subjects to stop the downward slide for these kids.
Sean, is that something you want to address now, or would you rather contact Ms. Delaney afterwards?
It's best if we do it afterwards. We have a lot more people to still talk. I'd rather do it that way, so we can reach out, or we're also writing down all the questions so we can reply in a larger fashion that way and the respective time.
Okay, so the information has been consistent. We've watched a neighboring school. They've done this since September, that schools can and should be open full-time for the kids. Continuing to stall for I guess March 3rd we'll start it, or hopefully not because of pressure coming from unions. Continuing at all down this path is really lame at best for these kids. And could the board tell us what roadblocks are stopping us from having our schools open now to be able to be open 5 full days a week for these kids?
Right now, it would be planning and money.
Planning and money for if the kids are masked,
It's
they
also
can't go back.
that I can comment on that, 'cause that's something I just want to make sure we don't have the same question multiple times. One of the biggest impediments to everything coming back is again, the social distancing requirements. You know, that this is something that is coming from even the CDC released last week, their recommendations of reopening schools, and they stress the importance of using 6-foot social distancing in classrooms and settings. It's the same thing that comes back when I've talked to our county's Department of Health, when I've talked to the DOE, when I've talked to other superintendents in general. That's something that is very consistent, that is what's keeping our schools open. That schools that have gone and opened without that have moved in those ways, have experienced a number of times where the school themselves is closing and therefore creating inconsistencies, or as I mentioned as well, having increased viral spread. Is something that the Burlington County Health Department strongly advocates against. It's something that the DOE is not in favor of doing. And it's something, again, that from talking to the superintendents across the county as well, that's a very consistent thing in terms of keeping that social distancing, because it is the best practice that is keeping our schools open, our schools and our students safe, our staff safe, and our community safe. So we are looking at trying to figure out ways that we can expand and bringing students back while maintaining that 6-foot social distancing, which is why Mrs. Chamberlain mentioned in terms of the financial constraints there as well. But the real linchpin on everything is a social distancing issue. We have talked to the departments of health, asking if there's any change that we can expect. I know that our region, as I mentioned earlier in my statement, has shifted from orange to yellow. We've asked if that's going to have any change in social distancing. As of yet, that has not made any change from anyone's statements. But again, we have asked if that's something that can come back to. In any conversation we have, it always comes back to that specific thing. We understand that that is the best practice, but we're asked when is it going to be that is going to change from 6 foot to something else, or if it's going to be use masks or whatever the case may be. But right now, from talking to the Department of Health, just so you understand that if we are within 6 foot distancing in a classroom and a student is there, and therefore there is a contagious situation, it doesn't make a difference if you have plexiglass, you have this, you have that, you're quarantining. That is their clear statement. That's why they come back and stress multiple times to make sure you are 6 foot. And that really is one of the biggest impediments that all school districts and conversations I've had in our county and others is trying to make sure that we can get a change on that, or when that's going to happen, so we can get a clear understanding. And again, please remember, just because that's in place now doesn't mean it won't be in place as well in the spring and the fall. And no one wants that. So I know it is very tough right now, but that's also the statement of, is this going to be something, if we continue with this now, knowing full well what this means, can we please have a light at the end of the tunnel? Can you please tell us that this is going to go away, and when is it going to change, so that we can make sure that our schools, as I mentioned, can go back to the optimal setting, which, as we all know, our educational system is built on the 5-day, full day in-person instruction. But we have to get through this situation as well with the health guidance, just as we've done so far this year.
Okay, but you did mention that it is that if they were closer than 6 feet, that we would have to close, because they could potentially spread it to each other. We're closing now. When you have, what is it, 2 positive cases?
Actually, it's usually 3 unconnected cases. But even now, that really comes down to Department of Health. And we have not, the predicament we had was based on the mass rate of exposure that caused a mass quarantine of our staff, students, and so on, was the only time we really had that structure. We were one of the last districts in the county to ever experience any type of closure. We've only had that 1 2-week period, except for that one small and a small blip before winter break. We have really done a fantastic job. And again, that is because of the job that our students have done, our staff have done, our parents have done, and not sending people to school when they're sick, of everything we do every single day with our daily health screenings and following the social distancing. So I think, again, I understand what you're saying. We understand you. We did that survey for that reason. We did hear those parents, as I mentioned, that so many of them want to come back. And that's one of the things to realize too, based on the percentage of the survey, which, by the way, we are still going through the data, because unfortunately some people did not read the directions to make sure only you're submitting it once per child, which created a additional step for us to make sure that the data we're analyzing is accurate. But the next step we then have to do is making sure that we can figure out a way to bring more students back, which is, again, why I said there's that posting that's going to be there. Because our first step in looking to do this would be to address our youngest learners, which is our kindergarten and first grade students, and then seeing how we can expand from there.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Keith?
Keith is still muted again.
Keith, can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, sorry. It just like reset the whole thing. Can you hear me? Thumbs up?
Yep. State your name and your address, please.
Well, yeah, it's 29 North Drive. I've been to quite a few of these, man. I'm getting a little burned out on it, quite frankly. But just want to give a quick shout out to the board because I know everyone's like working really hard to make the best of a bad situation. To Sean, I mean, welcome to your first year in Tabernacle, Big Cat. You know, I mean, I got to tell you, you're pretty well spoken. So anyway, you know, just a couple things that I wanted to point out are the fact that I really support the kids going back to school 5 days a week. Obviously, you know, my wife had to quit her job to essentially stay home and teach my kids. So whatever you guys can do in your power and whatever laws can be followed so that this goes back to 5 days a week. I mean, that would be obviously fantastic. I also understand the budget concerns that the district has. I've been in front of the mic quite a few times, even threatening to put my kids in private schools, and was actually enrolled until this whole COVID thing happened. And I said, well, why should I pay, you know, 10 grand a year in property taxes and then another X amount of $1,000 to send my kids to private schools to essentially have my wife teach my kids? So, you know, I definitely sympathize with the decisions that you guys have to make. I appreciate that union member from up north joining in on the call and giving us her heartfelt thoughts on how we should run our district down here in Tabernacle. But with all that being said, listen, you guys got to do what you got to do. You know, we voted you into office. So, you know, do what you can to get the budget rounded out. And, you know, I'm here to support whatever hard decisions that you guys have. And with that, you know, I'll lend back to whoever's going to talk next.
Thank you, Keith. How about Dean?
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. State your name and your address, please.
Sure, this is Dean Nodero. I live at 11 Iota Trail.
Thank you.
Two topics I want to get to real quick. First, I just want to thank the aides that have helped my family out immensely. Miss Liz, Miss Jamie, Miss Darlene, Miss Wendy, Miss Steph. You guys are household names in our house, and we certainly support you. You know, my question for the board is, an aid cut or an aid privatization saves us money this year, but I know there's more hard decisions to be made after this. The budget situation is not getting easier. And I want to hear, if you don't know now, or if you can share it at some point, what is on the table for the next round of cost saving measures. I don't think it stops here. At least that's my impression of the situation. It's fairly dire, and more hard times are ahead of us before we get through what looks to be in the budget in the next few years. Second part I want to make is just to encourage the board to strongly consider what a couple other parents and members of the community have said, is that our kids really want to be back in school. Our parents want the kids to be back to school. I know the educators want the kids back in school. We all think it's in the best interest of the kids to be back in school. Whatever you guys can do to expedite that process is going to go a long, long way to the mental health of our kids. I know the CDC has recommendations. I hope that you can view them as recommendations and not requirements. I'm not suggesting that we bend rules or break laws or do things that are unsafe, but I hope we can just be as practical as possible when trying to get the school open full time to the kids as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Adams-Paul?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
So I just wanted to say, we definitely, the teachers, we understand the importance of children being in school, having consistency, getting the best education possible. We all want to be back to our regular schedule, 5 days a week, full class, full days. It would be the best for everyone. We all agree it's best educationally, socially, and emotionally. However, we can't overlook CDC guidelines or New Jersey Department of Education guidelines because it really makes many of us extremely uncomfortable. It greatly adds to our already high levels of anxiety and stress. The compliance with health and safety guidelines should remain forefront to protect all our students and staff. Last year, teachers were viewed as heroes at the beginning of the pandemic, and now we feel like we've been cast as villains. If we feel nervous about being in our classroom with 20+ students, in many cases with no windows, we see comments like, get back to work, do your job, open the schools. People posting, teachers in the union don't have students' best interests at heart. Well, the schools are open and we are working. We are working harder and harder and longer hours than we ever have in our careers. And as always, without a shadow of doubt, we have all of our students' best interests and needs at the forefront of our hearts. I've heard comments stating that it's such a low percentage of people who get sick or die from COVID-19, and that may be true. However, some of us don't feel comfortable taking that chance. I'm the only living parent to my 2 children. I never thought 8 years ago my husband would go to bed as usual with no health issues at 41 years old and never wake up. And I am not comfortable playing the odds. Our Tabernacle families have every right to voice their opinions and speak up for what they would like to see happen. And I feel our teachers and staff also have the right to speak their minds. I don't enjoy the spotlight at all, but this issue is too important for me to sit quietly by and let things happen that will jeopardize my health and my family's health. My husband's a high risk with pre-existing medical conditions, and I worry about him and bringing the virus home to him. I would also like to address the criticism that has been prominent on social media. I understand there are people that want to see a change in our school. I understand there are people that feel very passionate about what is best for their children. And what I would call into question is the way it is being done. I believe no one wants to feel powerless to make changes where there's a strong belief, but let's consider the way power is being used to affect the desired change. Are we using power to blame others for the problems in our school, to instill fear of what will become of our children if they aren't back in school, and to post negative comments to devalue others? Or are we using power to promote connection, empathy, to unite, not divide, to help serve others rather than expect to be served by others? And now we're being told that Tabernacle may be privatizing our assistants, firing our amazing, hardworking classroom assistants and replacing them with a revolving door of private contractors. This is very disappointing and definitely not in the best interest of our students. We have the
your time is coming up.
Committed assistants who genuinely care for our children. Why we would even think about making this decision for our kids, I don't understand. We need to take care of the people. It's the people that are the most important ingredient in our schools.
Thank you. There's a WTSSSPA. I don't think that's what your mom named you, but you're next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Chrissy Kozo. I live in Washington Township. I have a quick question for you. How many people have actually joined the meeting this evening? It would be interesting to know how many people have turned up.
So it looks like we have about 235 people on here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that it? Okay. How about A. Williams? Can you unmute yourself? There you go. Can you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, can you hear me? Amanda Williams, 6 Shore Court, Tabernacle, New Jersey. I was just curious if Obviously, paraprofessionals would be like one of the last things to cut just because quality and consistency. And the value of the student's education, I'm sure that really enhances it, having a steady staff there. But I'm curious if there was any consideration for like kind of thinking outside the box of other ways to save, obviously, but also maybe make money. I know, that building was for sale down the street, and it still is, it looks like. But given that other districts like maybe need more space because they don't have the space to social distance, could we like rent it out for money, or rent a space of the elementary school for money? Like, just trying to think outside the box of other ways to kind of make money, or rather than save it. I know cuts are hard. And then I did have another question. I don't know if anybody can provide an update on what the status of like regionalizing with Chemung and Chatsworth is.
We'll have to get back to you with those answers. Melissa Reuter.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak to item number 3 on the agenda.
Can you state your address, please?
I'm sorry, 10 Mallard Drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As a parent to special needs kindergartner, we feel it is imperative that our Tabernacle paras remain part of our school community. Due to our daughter's program, she's in contact with multiple aides. Each one of these amazing women have guided our daughter and helped her make immeasurable growth in the past 2 years. I speak from experience when I say that privatizing paras will only lead to issues. When you can't find aides to fill the opening, who will fill that role? What will a teacher do when the aide she had the prior day doesn't show up for work and she has to retrain someone? That will take away time from the kids. We're already losing enough time. When an aide doesn't want to change a diaper in the preschool disabled room and walk to the building without recourse because they are not employed by Tabernacle schools, what do we do? IEPs will not be in compliance because aides will not show up, putting the district in a very compromising position. Our Tabernacle aides provide consistency, familiarity, sorry, it's way past bedtime, routine for our district's most at-risk children. IEPs are going to be more successful when built on years of familiarity and trust with whom the child works with, not strangers. People who see their growth from previous years are able to see the end goals that are yet to come. Speaking from experience with my daughter sitting at the table last week, writing Valentine's Day cards, some of the top people on her list were not only her teachers, but her paras. These are people who she's come in contact with over the past few years who could not be more willing to help her. I know we already have budget cuts with special education teachers, so we're already sharing special education teachers across the grade levels, and we need that consistency with our children and even for our staff members, because these teachers and these students are in a different time right now, and without these paras to provide the consistency and the routine and the happy faces and love for these kids, the kids wouldn't want to go to school anymore. I already struggle enough getting our kindergarten to school on days that she knows she won't see certain people. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We have Jamie Young. Jamie Young.
Megan, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that person on my side.
Okay.
The hand up anyway, I'm sorry.
Danielle Hare.
Yeah, got it.
Danielle, you're muted. Danielle, you're still muted. Ms. Hare, can you hear me? I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Your microphone is muted. Okay, we'll have to come back to you. There's a Jennifer H.
Hi, this is Jennifer Herpin.
Hi, Jen, how are you?
Good, 61 Woodside Drive, Tabernacle. I just wanted to, there's two things I wanted to say. It's not all bad news. Last week we had a really good virtual experience for our 8th graders. Ms. Petersack and Ms. Misowitz helped provide baby pictures, and we had about 50 kids participate. And you know, my house was a flurry with activity, and they really just had a lot of fun just being kids. You know, they were tuned in on their phones, on their laptops, and they were playing games with each other. And it was a really nice event. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Petersack and Ms. Misowitz for that. And then as for the para, I just wanted to say that, you know, I work for EESS, and I've been a substitute at Tabernacle, and I'm still employed by them. I just have a different, I'm at one of the high schools right now, long-term, so I can't be employed by them right now on a day-to-day basis. But when I don't put in my days off, they do call me for coverage in Tabernacle. And that's not surprising to me, because when I did substitute in Tabernacle last year, there was a constant need for substitutes. And I know the substitute shortage right now has been complicated because of COVID, but you know, I feel like I was at Tabernacle because I had a vested interest because my kids were there. It was outsourced. The training literally was an hour in a room. You know, it was more like an icebreaker than actual training. And, you know, that's substituting. That's not a para where you're building a relationship. So, and I don't think that Tabernacle has experienced enough employment from the substitutes with ESS, because, but quite frankly, there are none showing up to the jobs. There's a shortage for substitutes. There's a shortage for coverage for teachers, and teachers are being pulled from their classrooms and to cover other teachers' classrooms. So, and that's a privatization at work. So I really would hate to see Tabernacle go in that direction. While I understand the fiscal situation is impossible at this point, you know, I would look to see Lenape Regional has managed to keep their paraprofessionals on a part-time basis without giving them healthcare. So that's an option too. But again, this privatization is really just not something I encourage Tabernacle to participate in. Thank you very much, and thanks for your service.
Thank you, Jen. Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne Hale. I live in 500 Tuckerton Road in Medford. I'm also the NJEA Educational Support Professional State Chair. If I could just have all of your attention for a minute, if you could stop and take the time to look up in the camera. I don't have much to say, but I've seen this firsthand. I have been to many board meetings across New Jersey. I have been to many meetings nationally with the NEA. You ever see that show, Undercover Boss? I'm challenging each and every one of you to shadow a paraprofessional, because I've sat and I've listened to their stories. I've seen their tears when they've had to leave the children because they couldn't afford to stay with the SS. I have heard the stories similar to what you just heard. They don't show up. They might show up and they're reading a book. They're on their cell phones. That's the reality of what's going on for the other districts that privatized. So again, table it, come back to me after each and every one of you have taken the time to truly look in the eyes of these paras and see what they do. They were true heroes during the COVID. They were the ones, even though they weren't online, they were getting in their cars, going to the school, getting books, driving it there. We had bus drivers that went to the schools, made the lunches. The paras picked them up and brought them there. They're the true stories that are going on. I listened to the stories of a para that was privatized. She lost her insurance. She couldn't afford to pay for her child who had cancer. They're the real true stories. So take the time, like Undercover Boss, where they go into the trenches. They truly find out what is the reality of what is going on. And then they go back to their moneymakers and find out, what can we do to make it better? That's what I ask. Take the time to do it. These are children's lives in your hand, and these are your neighbors' lives in your hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Danielle Hare came back up to the top of the list.
Hi there, everyone. Danielle Hare, special education teacher, Tabernacle Elementary School. I am speaking to line item 3. I am reading something for another teacher who cannot. I will also make a comment afterward. What is an assistant to a teacher? An assistant is the person who greets your child each morning. Assist your child with his or her lunch, snack, helping them open snacks and lunch. Right-hand person in your classroom, the person who assists your child when they are missing something, when a Band-Aid falls off, when they need someone to walk them to the nurse. They act as basic skills teachers for kindergartners and first graders. They also act as an occasional perk teacher, helping the teacher to differentiate by reading with a student or a group. Helping to interview students and assess their skills and determine their needs. They help with small groups, with activities. Reads with small groups, the person who will get them in an activity voluntarily when they don't want to. Make sure the backpack is packed at the end of the day. Make sure a coat is on. Help students finish up work they may have missed. An extra set of ears and eyes for students to talk to when they need something. One of our assistants' greatest values is that they are consistent, day to day, year to year. They know our children. They know the teachers they work with. They have history with families. Teachers do not have to stop and teach them what to do when they enter the class. They know expectations and how to do their job well. Children look forward to seeing them just as much as they do their teachers. I want to speak to the assistants who we would be lost without. Sorry, this is cursive. They know the program, the routine, and make our program stronger. What do they do all day? They greet your children every day. They help with unpack. I'm sorry, that is a repeat there. Some of your children who have benefited from having a classroom assistant and are fortunate enough that our assistants have always been local within the Seneca Sending District, many from Tabernacle. They know families and the community. They are helping students to become stronger members of our Tabernacle community. Outsourcing assistance will change that. Please reconsider. Thank you. That is a statement I read for someone else. My statement was a little more personal. As many of you know, I worked in Medford for 1 year last year. I worked in a fourth grade resource room. I had 4 assistants from an outsourced company within a month, maybe 3 weeks. The first one lasted a day. The second, a week. The third, well, I won't go into it, but I had to see my principal about some issues. The fourth was a wonderful fit. Those children lost 30 days. That's not okay. That's not what we want for our students, especially when we all want them to get back in, getting the most quality time out of our education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Kelly Kemps.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Kelly. Can you give your address, please?
Hi, Kelly Kemp, 6 Hunters Lane. I just wanted to read something quick and then I wanted to share a video. I would like to say thank you to Ms. Steph and Ms. Herzog. They have been awesome in our community and have been great paras for our school. Also, people that are coming in from our other towns to speak on behalf of our paras, I would just like to say they don't know our kids at all, and they wouldn't even be able to find us on a map. So I'm not sure how they can speak on our behalf. I keep hearing that we need consistency for our children from teachers. It's so important. This being said, what is holding us back from 5 days? Is our paras and special ed staff not susceptible to COVID? Sorry, I can't talk. Surrounding towns are doing this, so can we. The kids are not transmitting the virus in school. It is more likely they are caught from staff that is traveling to places like Mexico. On that note, I would like to share a video. Okay.
I'm sorry, our system doesn't allow that to happen.
Okay. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kemps. There's a Mia.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Mia Ditta, 83 New Road. This is my first time sharing during a board meeting, so be patient with me. First, I would like to take this time to thank all that have been involved in the recent education advancements regarding live streaming for our children and the possibility of opening 5 half days to all of our students. There has been a great lack of communication between parents and our administration. So we were fearing the worst, that our children were being forgotten and that their voices were not being heard. And I want to thank everyone who has been listening. For those of you who don't know me, I am a 4th generation lifetime resident of Tabernacle. I have a strong vested interest in our community and our schools. I work as a local realtor and I volunteer in our community. To say the least, my roots are deep. I currently have a 3rd and 6th grader in OMS. I have always been supportive of our administration and our board. I have taken a back seat, but kept a close ear on things. Lately, I feel that our district has been reactive instead of proactive with our decisions. Is our mission statement not, we are empathetic, innovative game changers? And yet I am not seeing that coming from the top. And our children are suffering. Our community is suffering. We need to step outside of our boxes, put our personal agendas aside, and put our students and their education first. That being said, we all know that our teachers are doing the best that they can under the circumstances, and they are working countless hours. I love and I support every single one of our teachers and our staff. But with the lack of resources, training, and the actual time that they have with our students, the education that our children are receiving is subpar. As parents, we are fearful of the consequences on our children that are not being present in our school, emotionally, socially, and academically. This is too much on our children. They've reached a breaking point. I think everyone has reached a breaking point. The teachers, the parents, the staff. No one is happy. No one expected things to go on this long. We have more information now than we did 6 months ago. And the decision that we made 6 months ago, most likely we would not make again today. Our kids need our teachers. They need normalcy. They deserve a proper education. They need their school. Not just an education, they need their school. Everything that encompasses a school. Not to mention parents need their jobs. We need to go back to work. Families in this community need the income. I don't think everyone is taking into consideration how many families in our community are suffering because they are losing out on income. This is affecting our kids. This is affecting parents emotionally, socially, in so many ways that it's not being taken into consideration. Most people on this, not to sound inconsiderate, but are not doing without their pay. They are receiving their full pay. A lot of families in this community have not. They are
Mia, your
suffering.
time's coming up.
Absolutely. We have circulated petition to parents in Tabernacle community to reopen our schools full time. We currently have over 190 signatures and it's climbing daily. I'm sure that everyone can agree that the quality of an in-person education is superior to a virtual education. We need to work together to find a way to give the children the quality education that they deserve. And I appreciate Mr. Bannon that most of our concerns and questions will be handled immediately for our town hall meeting. And just working together is paramount for the success of our schools. And Tabernacle has always been a close-knit community, and our administration needs to understand that this community, the parents and the students, will do whatever it takes to help and to assist to get our doors open. We're here to help. We don't need to choose sides. We all have a common goal, and that's the kids, and that's to give them an education.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Amy? Hi, Amy. You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep. Can you state your address, please?
66 Richter Road. First, I just want to thank everybody for their hard work during this. I know it's not easy. I know my daughter's in first grade. She does have an IEP. I am very, very thankful for the paras that have helped, especially Nicole last year was game changer for us. I really, really advocate for keeping the paras and not and just keeping them right in the school district. I think it's good for continuity of care. The second thing that I want to address is what, as a community, what can the parents do to help? I think there's a lot of resources as far as we all have a common goal. We want to get the kids back to school. I am an infection control nurse. I work within a facility right now. I understand the CDC recommendations and the guidelines for social distancing. I also see it firsthand. I have dementia patients that can't stay 6 feet apart, but we're doing the best that we can do and they're healthy. I think that we need to take the recommendations into consideration, but I think we also need to see the bigger picture as far as their mental health. children with, we just need normalcy. So I understand what you said is preventing it is planning and resources. So I think that the parents can come together with the teachers and the board to come up with a plan, whether that be infection control or putting our resources together to help fund these things. I think from what I've heard, there's just a great, you know, a great effort to make this happen. And I think the parents are on the page, and I just would like to know what we can do as parents to assist with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Amy, may I have your last name, please? Does anyone know what Miss Amy's last name was?
No, she's got a little
First grader.
first grader. Oh, there she is. She's back. She's back.
Hi.
Hazlet.
I'm sorry.
Hazlet.
Thank you.
You're
Sorry.
welcome. No problem.
Thank you. Tom Curley. Tom, are you there? I don't see a mute button. Oh, now I see a mute button, but I still couldn't hear you.
Sorry, buddy. That took a little while. Sorry about that.
There you go.
I'd like to talk today about personnel item number 3. I'm not sure if you guys noticed about like an hour and a half ago when Miss White spoke, and when she was subbing, she misspoke and she said the teachers were right on it when she was talking about the paras. That's the savings that you guys are making already. The amount of work that they do, the expertise that our paraprofessionals give to us on a daily basis, their experience, to even think about getting rid of that for a private company, it's a disservice to Tabernacle community, kids, and of course the staff, because they're really good at what they do. Can you even guarantee that a private company is going to come in and give us the same level of service, provide the same qualifications, provide a stable workforce and standards that are equal to the standards that we've seen? We already know the answer to that. It's overwhelmingly no. To even begin to think about that is really disheartening. You might want to get a pencil and paper. I'm going to talk about some figures that are public information about the S2 cuts. We totally understand the impact that the S2 cuts have had on our district. Between 2018 and 2020, association staff salary and benefits have been cut by $894,036. In the same time, administrative salaries alone have been cut by over $266,000. I rounded down because I don't have the exact figure. In addition, Mrs. Saylor on February 14th reported a savings of $300,000 in the closing of parts of TES. That total adds up to $1,460,036 in financial savings. Now, these savings also don't take into account the additional savings of administrative health benefits because of those cuts, or the 40% of staff switching to the cheaper NJ Educators Health Plan. The current impact from S2 from 2018, including next year, is $1,589,590. That means for next year, we only have to figure out a difference of a few dollars or even pennies when you include those additional health savings, when you include the savings that I've incurred, or at least the losses that I've incurred because of the COVID losses, with my stipends being taken away. I mean, there's no coaching available. I shouldn't get paid. I totally understand that. But the board budgeted for that information and for that money. You still have it. We also have, I know that the COVID, has brought a lot of undue stress to the district financially, but let's not forget there's a sizable amount of money in capital reserves, well over $500,000. So we're already covering the cost of the S2 impact for next school year. We're not in a position where we need to make any cuts like this, especially when our kids need these assistants the most. As a staff member, I think this is a bad idea. But as a Tabernacle parent whose youngest child will need their services, I don't support privatization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crilly. Melissa?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you state your address, please?
506 Old Indian Mills Road.
Okay.
Good afternoon or evening, I guess I should say. I'm a Tabernacle parent with not one, but two students that need help from these paras. There is absolutely, actually no way my oldest son would have gotten on the bus to go to school without the assistance from these paras. These kids need them. They need the routine. They need the consistency. There is absolutely no way my son would have gone to school without the assistance from a para. I just read about a woman in Ohio that they have paras from privatization. She stapled a paper to the kid's head because he couldn't remember something. I'm sure every single Tabernacle parent would be outraged if that happened in our district. I am strongly, strongly against this, and I really would appreciate any consideration at all in any other direction for cuts. I know there's a lot going on, but it is personally very, very important that we keep these women. I trusted these women when my son couldn't speak. We need them in our district. We can't have people that we don't know switching in and out every day, and it's just not okay. It is absolutely not okay. From a mom with two special needs students. Please, 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 let's table this and figure out something else. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Leeson and Ian McDowell.
Hello?
Hi, could you state your address, please?
Hi, yes, my name is Lisa and I live at 14 New Road, Tabernacle. Okay, so I just wanted to bring up a couple things. I think that the paras support our most vulnerable, and those are with special needs. And, statement 3 really is cutting corners with our most vulnerable. Paras go to the IEP meetings. They know everything about our children. They know how to follow the IEP, which is a legal document. Will these subs follow this? I mean, in all reality, it's very unlikely that these hired subs will come in early, read our child's IEP, which, is revolving, comprehend the IEP and implement them each morning for each child before assisting them. Beyond the IEP, there are things that these subs will not know. Like our paras, they're consistent. They're consistent with our special needs children with how they eat. If they need help opening their juice box, taking your child to the bathroom. Now, as a mother of a child with special needs, imagine you have a child that's in middle school going through the changes, and you have a stranger every day taking you to the bathroom and helping you, and they have no idea your routine, and every day it changes, or it changes every 2 days. How uncomfortable it is for that child to go through that. Also, there's other things, medical reasons. My child suffers from absence seizures. I have a consistent one-to-one aide, Miss Amy, who records my son's seizures. They're absence seizures. They're very hard to detect. And she is trained to record them. And we use her data and we take it to the neurologist and we base some of our medical therapy for our son on how many seizures he's having during the school year, the school day. Having a consistent para is paramount to a lot of our special needs children, especially seizures, which is a life-threatening condition. In this instance, I'm saying that when you cannot accommodate our special needs children it's something called free and affordable public education for the child with special needs. If you can't provide that, then we have to send our children out of district for those needs to be met. And then the district has to absorb those costs. So in the long run, when we get rid of the people that can provide the support for our special needs children are no longer there, we have to send our children out of district, and then Tabernacle ends up having to pay for them to go somewhere else. So in the long run, it may not be any help. I've also had my child evaluated, and I'm sure a lot of the special needs children could be evaluated where a BCBA recommended my child have an RBT trained aide. And I'm sure that would go for a lot of the special education children. So when it comes down to cost, this might be a Band-Aid for the moment, but in the long run, it's going to cost our district more. So I just think we really need to think about providing for our children the appropriate free public education. And if we don't provide that, then the kids have to go somewhere else.
Thank you, Ms. McDowell. Jody Mundy?
Hi, thank you. Took me a minute to find the unmute button. I wanted to first and foremost, it's Jody Mundy. I supposedly live in Lumberton, but I think I really live at OMS. I wanted to first and foremost talk about the paras, and I need to say and reiterate what so many others have said, and that is I could not do my job this year without the para in my classroom. Jamie Stanton has been absolutely unbelievable in so many ways. I feel even a little bit weird calling her a para because she's a teacher. She is there every step of the way, working with me, working with Miss Lane. She is there for the kids. She knows them. She can sense what their needs are. Quite often, even before I notice it. And she is fabulous at what she does. She is the organized one, definitely not me. So she has that strength, and I don't know what I would do without her in my room. The kids need them, and like parents have said, like the other teachers have said, this has to be looked at and considered. We need to consider, is there some other option, some other way to save money, because that is not the way. Additionally, I want to address a comment that was made that, most of the people in this room haven't lost pay. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair to say. So many of the teachers rely on those additional monies that come in through coaching, through lunch duty. It's something that I know I myself have lost money for, and I understand why, and it is what it is, and I'm going to have to learn how to deal without that extra money. But that money helps me going into the summer, as it does so many of the other teachers in this district. That money gets held off and doesn't even get paid until June. We go the whole year just so we have the money to pay for our summer bills, because that's what we need. So I think it's an inaccurate statement that was made that we aren't losing our pay, because we have lost some of it. Yes, we do still get to work, and we are so grateful for the jobs that we have. But it's not fair to say we don't get the pay. I completely understand parents wanting the kids to be in school 5 days a week. That's what all the teachers ultimately want. And we want it when it's safe. We know that it is best for the students, but there are concerns. My room alone has 21 students if they go back full time. I am in a classroom that is 1/3 to 1/2 smaller than it was in TES. It has no windows. With 6 feet of distance, I can barely get 11 desks in the classroom and they want me to put 10 more in. Plus I have another child that comes in for certain times of the day. So another 11 desks, you want me to double it. They won't have 3 feet of space in that room. It's a fire hazard. To get those 11 desks in, I wouldn't be able to, I don't block a door, but you add any more, I'm blocking a fire exit and it's not acceptable.
Miss Mundy, your time is coming up.
Okay, and additionally, like Mrs. Adams, I am an only parent and I am not willing to play the odds. As much as I love my kids at school, my children at home only have me.
Thank you. There are currently 4 more hands raised. We said we would give this about an hour and we've now given it about 2. So I'm going to finish off with these last 4 names and then we're going to have to proceed with the meeting. So Keith.
Sorry. There we
Okay.
go. I'm upside down. Okay.
Hi, Keith, could you state your address, please?
1600 John F. Kennedy Boulevard, Jersey City, New Jersey.
Okay.
My name is Keith Oakwitz. I'm a proud paraprofessional here in Jersey City, and also the president of our Paraprofessional Association. And I stand with my brothers and sisters who have to face this time of having a board that would like to privatize them. This is not fair. You have folks down there that are hard workers, and not only hard workers, they're trained to work with our students with disabilities. You go and get someone outside, you don't know what you're gonna face. We had a situation where we used Source for Teachers in Jersey City and we had to get rid of them so fast because people had criminal background and we made sure that had to go. We don't want our children to face that. So I'm asking that you reconsider this option of getting rid of folks that care and live in the city and know our students. You know, it's a shame. Do the right thing. They deserve it. And they've been working so hard even during this pandemic. And I'm asking this board up here in North, please do the right thing for our children. It's about the children because they will suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel? Rachel, you muted?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now. Can you state your address, please?
Yeah, 1 Washington Way in Tabernacle.
Okay.
Got my little horns in the background.
All right, could you say your last name as well, please?
Sure, Gillen.
Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to speak about my experience with privatization. I work in Mercer County. I work in a lot of alternative schools that use these individuals. I work with criminals for a living, and I work with kids. I have 15 years of working with these people, and I have a lot of stories. You can call me, I'll tell them all to you. I have stories of these contracted people putting their hands on children. I have when children kind of give them a little lip, these individuals will yell back at them, put their hands on them. There's been criminal charges against these individuals. And this has happened over time. I moved to Tabernacle for a reason, to get away from those things. And this is just really hard for me to handle, that these people would be near my kids. I heard some other people talking about these outsourced individuals with background checks and mental illness. And I'm not surprised because I have personally experienced it with the juveniles I work with in my profession. That's really all I have to say. It really, really concerns me. Like I said, I moved here for a reason, and this is not okay. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Rachel. Julie Toon?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Hi, Ms. Toon. Can you
Hi.
just give your address, please?
Sure, it's 1013 Salem Road in Cherry Hill, fifth grade teacher and TEA co-president. I just wanted to touch upon, first of all, thank you everybody for speaking tonight on behalf of the paras and also in support of the teachers and staff. I just wanted to address the moving back to 5 days a week. No one wants a return to normalcy more than the staff that works with these kids, many of whom are parents ourselves, and we want our kids back to a return to normalcy. When we surveyed our staff, 95% of us feel strongly that we need to be supporting the guidelines, both CDC, New Jersey Department of Health, and Burlington County Health Department. We reached out to Dr. Herb Conway, who is the director of the Burlington County Health Department, and it is still recommended our 6 feet social distancing. February 12th, our positive cases in Tabernacle were 349, up from 69 in October. That is a 406% increase. This is in our community, and we need to make sure we're keeping each other safe, both the community and the school community, by wearing masks, by social distancing, by doing everything we need to do to keep us safe. Also want to address the issue of choice that seems to be the driving force in the request to return to 5 days in person with lesson restrictions. While we totally understand and acknowledge the desire to choose what is best for your own families, whether that be fully virtual or fully in person, the staff who work in these buildings don't have that choice. We don't get to choose what's best for our families. Many staff members have varying degrees of health issues themselves and loved ones in their home with various health issues. Continuing to follow recommended guidelines will help keep staff members and their families safe. We are so happy and excited to be here educating your children the 5 days that we're here, but we want to make sure we can continue to do that safely. Regardless of any of the decisions that are made moving forward with changes to our schedule and learning model, we just want to stress that as an association, we feel that we need to continue to follow all guidelines as rules, not just recommendations or suggestions, in order to keep everybody in our community safe and learning as much as in person as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Toon. I just have one of the parents that we couldn't get on earlier. She was having technical difficulties. Her name is Debbie Snodgrass. I'm just going to read her statement real quick, and then we're going to wrap this up for now. Hi, my name is Debbie Snodgrass, and I am the mother of Summer Snodgrass, who is a 3rd grader at Kenneth R. Olson Middle School. My daughter suffers from multiple medical conditions, as well as emotional issues, and requires special assistance in her classroom since she suffered a stroke in kindergarten. Having a trusted and caring paraprofessional by her side is all that she knows. The highlight of Summer's day is when she can ride on the bus, socialize with her fellow students, and learn new things. However, the main reason that Summer enjoys going to school every day is to see her teachers and the paraprofessionals. The bond between them is strong, and she loves them like her own family. I cannot even consider why in the world the school board would ever even consider taking paraprofessionals away from the special needs children. These children feel as if these teachers are family, and to remove family from a special needs child's life would be detrimental to their health and well-being. Would you treat your family this way, especially if you had a special needs child? Would you feel comfortable placing a stranger with your special needs child after they have gained years of trust with them? I am sure you are all aware special needs children have a difficult time gaining trust and feeling comfortable. These children have known these paras almost their entire lives and trust and love them like family. The paras know our children's wants, needs, and limitations. You cannot take these special human beings away from and replace them with complete strangers who do not know anything about our kids. These paras love our children like their own. They go above and beyond their job duties every day for not only the children, but for the teachers. I know personally my daughter Summer has extreme separation anxiety. If you took her para away from her, I cannot even imagine what this would do to her. I understand this is a monetary issue and you are trying to save money. However, when you are dealing with special needs children, you simply cannot cut corners with their lives. Sincerely, Debbie Snodgrass. Okay. So at this time, we're going to move on with the board meeting. I want to thank everybody for their comments. That was a lot. It's a lot of comments. Okay, at this time, we are going to go into executive session, whereas statute allows for a public body to go into a closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District has deemed it necessary to go into a closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempt from the public, and whereas the regular meeting of this Board of Education will reconvene at the conclusion of the closed session at approximately, I don't even know what time it is. It's 9:04. Anybody want to throw out a time?
9:30?
9:30. Say 9:30. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District will go into closed session for the following reasons as outlined by statute. Any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation in which the public body is or may become a party. Any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education here declares that its discussion of the aforementioned subject may be made public at the time when the board attorney advises the Board of Education that the disclosure of the discussion will not detrimentally affect any right, interest, or duty of the school district or any other entity with respect to said discussion. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education, for the aforementioned reasons, hereby declares that the public is excluded from this portion of the meeting during which the above discussion shall take place, and hereby directs the board secretary to take the appropriate action to effectuate this terms of this resolution. So we will continue this hopefully around 9:30, folks.
Motion.
Can I have a motion to go into executive? Vicky. Second?
Second, Kevin.
Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? All right.
Thank you.
Anybody make a motion to call this meeting back to order, whatever?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? All right, bring them all back in.
We're good, man.
Yeah, they're already in. They never left.
Okay, sorry. So we're back in session. So let's continue with the superintendent's report, please.
Absolutely. To carry on from the message I said earlier, as well, obviously we began our live streaming with 6, 7, 8 has been live streaming. Today we also brought in the next group, which is grades 3, 4, and 5. And next week, K1 and K through 2 will be joining that as well. More information is coming in. Again, I know it's one of the concerns I've had for a number of parents, especially with the K and 1, is how that'll look. That is a little bit different because we do understand obviously the differences in the grades and having students stay on that same time. So we have been working with the teachers to make sure that, we can work a system where it's one link, one meet link for the whole day for the K and 1 in particular. That way the student has knows set access points to come on to for the direct instruction periods, and then at least has access to the teachers throughout the day as help may be there, but not necessarily online staring at a screen for 4 hours straight. As again, that is probably more developmentally appropriate for that age. We're very thankful for that, and definitely the hard work of our IT department and everything they've done since Kyle came aboard in the middle of January. We made great strides in making sure that we could have the live streaming that we wanted to have in place for a while go live. So again, thank you to Kyle and to your team. Big shout out again to Judy and to Ryan for all your help. I know the three of you have been running around like crazy, making sure everything is set up. Our devices are where they need to be. In great support for our staff and making sure the training is there. So thank you for that. And again, thank you again, the teaching staff, to the admin team and everything that you've been doing too. We also had a fantastic professional development day last Friday. Definitely thank you to everyone who worked on putting that together. And again, we're very much looking forward to our continued phasing of our rollout of live streaming and to continuing our discussion as to how we can continue to increase our instructional model. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Board reports. EdTech.
So the Ed Tech committee met on February 2nd at 3 p.m. Was myself, Ms. Corey, Mr. Dilks, Colonel Hensky, Mr. Banning, Ms. Gallagher, Mr. McKean, Ms. Palmieri, and also our technology coordinator, Kyle Calderwood. So the first thing we discussed was grades 6 to 8 math resources. So the MAP testing for the past 2 years has shown that the scores are dropping in math in our upper grades. And the question was, what does that data tell us? So administration reviewed several factors. They have confirmed via teacher evaluations and reviewing the tools used by the staff that part makes sense. They do not believe that it makes any sense that our students have somehow forgotten how to do math, especially because those students who are participating in the Lenape-aligned curriculum in algebra and geometry do not have this lag. There were several factors that the administrative team believe are impacting results. So one is that our students in our elementary grades have a different set of resources than our upper grades. So about 13 years ago, the district instituted what's called Progressive Mathematics Initiative, PMI for short, for the upper grades. It is not a typical textbook, a structured resource, but it had free resources. And it looked to show what the standards the students were struggling on to identify areas that need to focus, but the staff feels that the PMI is now outdated. The district is now looking at resources that will identify and target those learning losses that would also link directly to the updated New Jersey student learning standards to implement in grades 6 to 8 to address that concern that both the board and the community has had. In addition, once again, trying to get information about data-driven decisions for our students' education. They looked at some data analysis tools and resources. One is called Linkit, which we are getting a free pilot program access through June. It will provide for benchmarking across subject areas. It will connect scores from state testing and MAP tests and puts them with benchmarks. And that pilot may also have some sample texts that are aligned to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, which is the current state assessments, and self-grade and give an alignment to those scores to see how our students are doing in preparation. Speaking of New Jersey student learning assessments, the State Department of Education has told the districts that they intend to require state testing in language arts, mathematics, and science for 2020-2021. So administration has started to plan. They do expect they will need a larger time period because of cohorting. The state has indicated that testing can be done remotely, but as the time of our meeting, they had yet to provide administration on how that will even work. And the administration did indicate the district is going to work with families who have testing accommodations due to IEPs, for example, to make sure that those students are properly assessed. This may include having some fully virtual students come into the building in the afternoons in order to do that testing. We also discussed the possibility of replacing on-course. So administration is considering recommending that we move away from OnCourse for our student information system. A couple of the reasons that have come to light. OnCourse has not been providing us with good customer support or customization, and that costs extra every time you want it one. So a couple examples that the administration shared with us. Some student schedules were not showing this summer, and it took weeks for OnCourse to get back to our district. Sean and his staff were trying to fix it without getting that support. No customization was really available for our daily screener. Issues with timing related to distribution of information via email to families. This was brought up the previous meeting by several members of the community. They're looking at the possibility of a program called Real-Time. Real-Time would be able to pull the following programs into one kind of platform: our student information system, teacher evaluations, SGOs, which are the student growth objectives required by the state, connect to lesson plans, an IEP module, which we have separately currently. You can conference schedule for parent teachers, automatic sending for letters to parents, online paperwork at the beginning of the year online, so you don't have to send stuff in. A portal for online payments, so no more checks, no more money orders, that type of thing. And to top it all off, there is a potential savings to the district of about $3,000 to $7,000 compared to the current systems. And it comes with 24/7 customer support. There's continue looking at, but this has the potential to provide us with additional information, additional resources, better customer support, and cost savings. We also had a discussion about evaluating the use of Blackboard in our communication system. So you may be aware that the district did upgrade our website, and that broke the app, even though they are both through Blackboard. And there's no additional functionality really with that app beyond the website. Parents have brought up issues, as well as staff, about delays and issues related to push out of the emails and calls related to Blackboard itself. So administration started to look at possible replacements, one called Parent Square. That cost would be about $5 a student, which is less than $4,000 a year. Potential pros, then once again, they're still investigating this, would provide the district regarding communications with parents and actual feedback. This is something that the board has asked for. Data on how people are interacting with the system. Are they interacting with email? Are they interacting with the app? Notifications of what emails are not delivered, which ones were open. So this would give us hard data about our communications with the parents and staff within our school district. It would integrate with social media of the district. Teachers would get their own portal, so they don't use Remind or Class Dojo. You can share what's going on with parents about what's going on in the classroom. Administration would have a record of everything being sent, so they can see what was going on. So this is more secure, provides the district from having sensitive information over other systems. And this one I love. Real-time translations from, like, for example, English to Spanish to help communications with parents who may not be native English speakers. In addition, our technology director provided a presentation over several issues. Our servers, he is recommending that we replace our current servers with 2 new ones at a cost of about $10,000. The new servers would be on a newer versions of Windows for additional security. A discussion about workstations we have a few that are still running a version of Windows, which is at end of life. He is also recommending at that time full review and purge of zombie accounts. There's no zombie apocalypse. Licensing, he is recommending that the district look at Microsoft 365 education. It would include Office 365, Windows 10, Microsoft Education Edition. Students would be able to download at least 5 copies of Office at home. The district is looking to move towards PCs in the future. The continued cost of the Macs is cost prohibitive. The machines must be taken out to Apple to get repaired, whereas the district could repair in-house the PCs. Our Macs are also no longer being covered by AppleCare. In addition, the smart software appears to be incompatible with the newest version of Mac OS, which is called Big Sur, which means that the smartboard, which are the older projector-based boards that we have, are not detected on the MacBook, and so the teacher cannot write or interact on those boards. He also discussed the network closets and wiring. High priority for him would be to complete a full review of the system, starting with creating a full updated network map, which would detail all existing network connections and wireless access points and locating them, which would allow for future planning. There's no cost for materials for this. It would just be for labor. At the time of our meeting, the business administrator said that they had found money from other sources due to COVID that would cover these costs. Because we were able to use grants to cover some costs. There would be money for the servers and the mapping from funds already available at that time. Additional priorities would be to identify devices that are outdated and being not utilized and look to sell those on Gov deals to bring funds into the district and to make sure any unneeded wiring is removed and cleaned up. We also talked about the interactive boards, moving away from projectors so you don't have those bulbs and calibrations, moving away from smart tech, which has about $4,000 a year licensing cost. He also recommended that our vendors, that we do a reevaluation to see what is currently being used. A few of the services that have been found we are paying for could be found elsewhere. It might be cheaper. And then to remove our reliance on CorePoint, which is needed for our firewall, phone system, and network, but we get charged $179 an hour anytime you have to do a service call. So he wants to look at potential options to create savings. And there you go.
Thank you. Anything for human resources? You're muted.
No meeting this month.
Okay, how about operations?
In the interest of brevity, we had a meeting on the 10th. We had the same presentation on the IT, and we discussed the live streaming and the return to school.
Okay. Kevin, policy?
We met on the 19th of January for the last board meeting. We discussed the one policy that's on the agenda for tonight. It's the remote public board meeting during a declared emergency. It's a mandatory policy that's new. So they're on the agenda later tonight. There's a motion to enact that, bypassing the first and second reading based on statute, so that we can have it enacted on first read tonight. And then I'll have another report of our policy meeting that we had tonight for tonight's board meeting at next month's board meeting.
Kevin, quick question.
Yeah.
Is when they define emergency, is emergency defined the same way through all our policy and everything that we do?
Have another report of. I'm sorry, could you say it again, see if I missed that?
Do they, when they say emergency, is emergency defined consistently through everything? Like is when we say emergency, when we refer to emergency in other parts of other policies, is that considered the same thing, a state emergency?
It's defined specifically, I think, in this policy. I don't know if it matches necessarily every other policy. This is this is specific for this policy. I haven't reviewed every single other policy to know.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else? Liaison reports and JSBA, Mrs. Corey?
Nothing.
BCSBA, Mrs. Shoemaker?
The meeting was held on February 4th. President of the NJSBA spoke about the series of special reports that NJSBA has done on virtual learning. The fourth one has just been released. There was something on it in the February 9th school board notes that came out to everyone. All four of these special reports can be found on njsba.org if you're interested in looking at those. There will be a virtual steam tank competition, and registration for that, the deadline was February 12th. And there are some training opportunities coming up. There's a spring symposium, which is virtual. It's 2 days in May, and I believe I've seen some emails about registering for that. The Board of Directors delegate talked about the upcoming meeting and the fact that they're continuing to meet with state legislators and senators in regard to regionalization, but mostly they're targeting the western part of Burlington County. Jesse Adams spoke about the mandatory training and to remind new and re-elected members, that training needs to be done by the end of the not the fiscal year, but the end of the calendar year. And that, this one, Patty, is for you. Census information, identifying positions for president, vice president, the BCSBA rep and the NJSBA rep needs to be sent to NJSBA.
Oh, I did. Did they say we didn't, or
No,
they're just
no.
general? Okay.
He didn't
Okay.
say, but
Yep.
you
Okay.
just have to remind the BAs.
You got it.
The government relations council spoke about some bills. I had Marlene include the report. I'm just going to go through them quickly. S854 S/S237 is the Laura Wooten's Law, which requires civics be taught as part of social studies in grades 6 through 7, 6 through 8, the middle school grades, and it will be a requirement for 8th grade graduation beginning in school year 2022-2023. S2831 establishes a 5-year alternate route interstate reciprocity pilot program for educators from other states who wish to get a teaching license in New Jersey. S2832, this one really gets me, allows college students with at least 30 credits who are at least 20 years old to serve as substitute teachers. Previously, you needed 60 credits. S1018 establishes an 11-member task force to examine, evaluate, and make recommendations regarding discipline policies and practices in New Jersey public schools. S1020 requires the school report card to include a demographic breakdown of students who receive disciplinary actions, and requires the New Jersey Commissioner of Education to establish a database for disciplinary actions taken. S550 requires student ID cards for grades 7 through 12 to have the telephone number for a suicide prevention hotline printed on the back. And the NJSBA was invited to testify at the February 9th meeting of the Joint Committee of the Public Schools regarding the impact of virtual learning. And I believe they presented their 4 special reports. The presentation that night was on school branding, and it was presented by Bob Morrison from the Watchung Regional School District and Ray Pinney from NJSBA. The regional school district in Watchung was opened in 1957, and they chose warriors and an Indian head emblem, they thought, to honor the Native Americans who had inhabited that area. The school yearbook is entitled, they pronounce it Lenape, and the school newsletter is entitled The Arrow. The school community felt it was honoring the Native Americans, but the Native Americans find it offensive. In 2005, the student body asked for a change, and the current day events brought this back around into focus. The board put forth a resolution to form a committee of stakeholders to discuss the change. The board put forth a second resolution to stop using the Native American imagery, however, keeping the name warriors. They suspended the use of the emblem on all new items, for instance, school letterhead, uniforms, anything that was sold with that. They formed a committee to determine the new warrior's image, and they said it needed to be gender neutral, nonviolent, and ethically and racially sensitive. And the school would vote on the final choice. They also mentioned how important it was to include all community stakeholders in the process of change. And they said they found that the older people, some of the staff, and especially the graduates of the school, were the ones that were against this change. The students that were attending the school were very much for it. We have 2 dates coming up. On March 8th, they will be doing an 8th grade dialogue recording. If we have any students, or we have a student going, their name should be submitted by the 22nd of February. And the recording will be released at a later date. The next actual meeting will be March 25th, and this meeting is primarily for the local presidents and the vice presidents, or the vice president, one of them, and it's a networking opportunity. And they did mention the Lenape district when they were discussing it, saying how the Lenape district having all the schools named for Native American tribes, and 3 of the 4, I believe Seneca is the Golden Eagles, 3 of the 4 having Native American emblems, that they were wondering how Lenape was dealing with it.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah. A quick question, Vicky, on the regionalization, did they bring up the Lenape district and the send-in districts?
No,
to Lenape?
he just said the western part of Burlington County. He didn't name any districts.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, HSA, there was no meeting last month, but there is a meeting this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Education Foundation?
Real quick, the Education Foundation got another $10,000 private donation. So that's a big win. It had a meeting on February 1st and they discussed the playground project. They also talked about rescheduling the Trenton Thunder fundraiser depending on COVID because they had to cancel it last year. And they are continuing to submit for grants like crazy. That's all they have.
Very good. CPAG, Mrs. Shoemaker?
The next meeting is March 1st, and Casey, has there been a speaker or topic chosen yet?
Not yet, to be determined. We will have a speaker for the families, a presentation, and it's going to be March 2nd, 7 p.m.
March
It'll be
2nd?
blasted out- Yep, it'll be blasted
Okay.
out through Paul Prince, and it will be on our special services website. Also, a
Okay.
ton of resources on that website for families as well, if you get a chance to
Okay,
check.
thank you.
School wellness, Dan?
Just unmuting, no meeting.
No meeting. And Township Council, Dr. Jones?
So the Township Committee, Liaison Committee met on January 28th. Myself and Sean from the district, Mr. Barton from the Township Committee, and Mr. Franzen, who's the president of the Tabernacle Historical Society. The township brought up 3 main areas they wanted to discuss. The first being is they're interested in securing some of the Sequoia land for a small park by subdividing the small grassy area if the district was interested. Mr. Barton, speaking for himself, said the township would entertain the possibility of paying for a survey for such a subdivision, and that any such subdivision would need to be approved by the land board. Mr. Barton asked what the township could do with helping to market the Sequoia for sale, raised the issue of marketing as a professional building or urgent care. We did discuss the issues related to the fact that it's connected to school sewage. Sean offered to put Mr. Barton in contact with the business administrator and building and grounds to answer specific questions, and he recommended working with the broker who lives in Medford, who is connected in the Tri-County area. Mr. Barton also brought up an interest on the part of the town council to tying into our sewage plant that goes from Seneca past Town Hall. The township had previously talked about moving public works from that location for aesthetic reasons, but their biggest issue was bounding. The rescue squad won't be paid off for quite a while, which means they can't bond without increasing taxes. And he expressed that interest to tying into the district sewer so they would not be in the septic system, which would provide them with greater flexibility. On behalf of the Tabernacle Historical Society, they wanted to talk about the one-room schoolhouse, which is over at school number 1, Sequoia. He indicated there's no good place for them to move the school at that time. There have been plans about some of the stuff out of Town Hall and move it to a park setting, but there might be room, but it would have to be moved to township-owned property, and none seem to be appropriate. Sean raised the issue of maybe needing an easement, possibility of the land board allowing an opening onto the main road, and perhaps even Russo's, which owns land next to it, may even be able to donate some land for their parking. Related to Sequoia, he thanked the district. They were able to take a tour and document school number 1 with photos. But they also noticed the building had some historical displays and are interested in taking possession of any that the school does not have a desire to display at our other locations. They spoke to Frank Ingram, who used to be one of our custodians, about how to access the third floor of the building. And they would like to go in and document that third floor. So when they document it, they did not get up into that third floor. There's apparently a magic panel. And they also talked about the possibility about the school letting them have possibly some of the display cabinets in Sequoia classrooms for displays at Town Hall or the Community Center if we have no use for them. Sean and I discussed two major points. One being that COVID has caused an increased need for remote learning, and we have students having internet problems, even with us providing, as the district, providing them with hotspots. So we need greater bandwidth and or signal strength. They have asked us to provide some of the streets of names that are having issues. So just throwing out that any parents, if you are one of those people, please reach out and let the district know. So we have those ones so we can take that back to them. Example is, I think the most common one, Speedwell Road is a known problem child. Also, we discussed state funding. We discussed the negative impact on us too on previous years, its impact expected going forward. And that our ability to provide a quality education is impacted by these cuts. And we asked for any support that they could provide to encourage the state to increase or at least maintain funding that would be incredibly helpful. For the good of the order, we agreed to meet every 2 months unless one group has an urgent need, in which case we would agree to meet sooner. So based off of that, we would be looking at meeting next month.
All right, thank you.
Can I jump in there with a comment? Meg, is there a possibility of putting some of these things that the, like what Mr. Franzen was suggesting about taking some of the things, the historical things from the building, will we be able to put that on an agenda that we can discuss, or?
I to a degree, I'm going to defer to Sean on this. I think one of the things that Sean had indicated was that he wanted to go in the building and take a look at that stuff first,
Okay.
to see, for example, what we might want to be displaying, what he might want to be displaying and bringing over. And then, for example, I'm going to make something up here. If there's a photograph that we would not necessarily be, putting up rather than having
Right,
that
I
go
understand.
away. But I think that first step, and I don't know if he's done that yet, things have been probably pretty busy, would be to take a look at that first. I think it's not unreasonable if there was a requested list that we might be able to evaluate and make that decision. I don't think it's gotten quite that far. Sean, if you want to step in.
You're correct. The request was made. We haven't had the time. So we've been having other things that are higher priorities right now, but we did say that when time allows, we'll go over to try to get a better sense as to what is in that building that we might want to display within our buildings, and try to make it work as well at the Historical Society to try to preserve some of those things and with them as well. And they also talked about there are certain, I guess, potentially display cases that may be too big for our buildings that we currently have, but that it may work for them to enable them to better display certain items.
Okay, the other points that might be, would be the subdividing the grassy area and tying them into the sewage plant would be things that the board would need to discuss.
Absolutely.
And we made both of those points very clear, that we were taking their information and would be reporting it back to the entire board. To be very clear, we told them that, our conversation there's no action being taken there. We made no agreements to anything other than to
No,
listen.
I didn't think you did. I just said they would probably be points that I don't know what committee would discuss them.
Well, we asked for more information as well from them. I think that was part of it, if I understand correctly. Dr. Jones, I think that they were going to potentially bring it back to the town council with some of their next steps as well. So it's kind of a back and forth, but I'm sure at our next meeting, we'll have more information.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, moving on under recommendations of the superintendent, under education, I have one item. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Vicky.
All right, we'll do Vicky and Jones. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, Patty?
Sorry, Mrs. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Dilks?
Yes.
Colonel Hensky?
Yes.
Dr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis?
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Under personnel, 1 through 3, can I have a motion?
So moved, Brian.
Second, Gail.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion to break these guys out into 3 individual votes.
I'll second that.
So I'm sorry, so just bear with me. So Dr. Jones, and I'm sorry, second was Mr. Lepsis?
Yes.
Okay. To break out into 3 votes. Okay, so we'll take number 1.
I think we have to vote on it, right?
Oh, yes, that's right. You're right. Oh, my gosh.
So to break them out, can I have, well, Jones, Brian, Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky. Colonel Hensky.
He shook his
Brian
head.
Hensky.
He shook his head, yes.
Thank you. Oh,
Come
thank you.
on, unmute.
Yes,
you go.
yes, I said
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna do number 1.
So,
Make I'll renew a motion on number 1.
Yes.
Jones will second.
Okay. So Mr. Lepsis and Dr. Jones.
number 1.
Okay. You are challenging my note-taking skills.
I'm sorry, Patty.
It's okay. Hey, listen, we'll get it. We'll get it.
So on number 1, we have Brian and Jones again. Do we have to do roll call again?
Comments,
Yes.
questions?
We have to do
Questions.
roll call. Okay, roll call on item number 1 under personnel.
Okay, so item number 1. Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes,
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. Item number 2.
So
Roll-
moved.
Second, Gail.
Oh, we got to make another motion? Brian,
Yeah,
Gail?
yeah.
Yeah.
each one
All
has-
separate now.
All right, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Yep. Roll call?
Mrs. Corey.
Wait, don't we have to do questions or comments?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, go ahead. Yes.
Questions or comments?
These
Sean,
will,
oh, sorry, Kevin.
Sean, so this motion is just to post for these positions. The positions prior to being hired will come back to the board again for
Absolutely.
approval.
Absolutely.
And we
It's
still don't know
just
how
the-
many we're talking.
No, I think one of again, what we said is this is to prioritize K and 1 as our 2 target areas. We're developing a survey just for those parents because again, if we're hiring teachers, that would enable us to bring the kindergarten and first grade students back to 5-day, half-day learning. That would also require, parents are going to have to know that this may mean that their teacher they've had up until this point may not be the teacher their child could have moving forward. So we want to make sure we're developing that survey, but in the meantime, we don't want to wait fully for that. We want to make sure we're getting this posting going because again, it can take a little while to make sure we get applicants again, because you're seeing from this posting, we're listing that this is only for the rest of this school year. That we're being very clear. When we meet with applicants, we're going to let them know that there is no promise of a job beyond the school year, and this is a non-tenure track position.
And then you're talking K and 1, you said. So are we talking lower end 2 teachers, higher end 4 teachers? What are we talking as far as a range?
I'd say it could be 2 to 5, but we're trying to also at the same point in time look at reconfiguring and creating a larger space in the media center and in the TES, which I know we had previously closed. And we were looking to see if we were able to configure that into a larger room, how many students we could socially distance in there. And that's why one of the reasons as well, it creates some flexible points for us. So I know usually we'd like to say the exact numbers of people, but that's why, again, it has more of the open-ended concern. And again, as you can imagine, there's also always the chance of special ed numbers and things like that playing into it as well. And ultimately, by also doing it as elementary teachers, if we're able to expand this beyond just K-1, if we can continue as we're looking at the same time and using some spaces in OMS and doing some more investigations there, this also gives us that flexibility if we can talk at a later time and say, you know, we found a way to continue to expand this to enable more grades in OMS to come back. That would enable us to have that candidate pool on hand.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sean, on that note, our next board meeting is March 15th. So if the approval is just to post today, is there anything else that we as a board could provide you with tonight that would allow you to move forward with all due haste if you are to find the right candidate and do this so we're not waiting a month between meetings to give approvals? Or would you be willing to call a special meeting if you're able to do this? My goal, not to hide the ball here, is to get those kids back into 5 days a week yesterday. So to have to wait to the next month to have a next vote and then move forward, anything we can offer you tonight or anything you're willing to ask for us tonight?
There very well be the case, Brian, we may have to do a special board meeting depending on how quickly we get applicants, interview them, and do that as well. The other, again, don't forget, when we're bringing teachers, even though the posting is for teachers, if we're going to bring those teachers in, we also are reaching out at the same time to our vendors for resources, because we also need to get additional instructional supplies for those people. For instance, very specifically, our new math program and our new reading program for those grade levels, we have a set amount of teacher resources based on the number of teachers we have in those grades. So we're also reaching out to find out how quickly we can expedite additional resources in those areas. So we're attacking this from multiple fronts right now.
Would you need board approval to purchase any of those, or is that already in the budget? And
we're not.
admin
It may already be. It may be below a threshold where we need a budget approval for something like that. Very good question. But again, if we end up finding out that it's something that we're looking as though we need a special board meeting, that is definitely not something that we're taking off the table.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sooner the better.
Sean, one of my concerns is just, this is a sum zero game at this point. Let's be honest. There's not a whole lot of money hiding around. And I'd like, if at all possible, I know you've tried to give us kind of general scope as far as how much you might expect it might be per teacher, plus the resources per teacher. But before, I'll be honest with you, I'd be comfortable in voting yes for a particular applicant. My major concern is the fiscal part, and to make sure that we have properly identified that we have the funds for it without suffering for other students and things of that nature. So would it be possible to get kind of the real detailed breakdown of where that funding would come from once you have the number of positions you'd be looking at? To really have that numbers, because I am concerned about being fiscally responsible. I think we all would love to have kids in there 5 days a week, but we've been very clear about the fiscal pressure that the district is under right now.
Now, Patty and I have already had those conversations. We know once we're able to figure out the number of teaching staff, and actually, figure out the brass tacks, so to speak, in terms of the actual cost based on where the teacher would fall and so on. Those are things we want to make sure that we're able to let you know as to what what areas we had to potentially do transfers, make this work. Because again, this is not an area that we had budgeted to begin this year. So anything we do in hiring these staff members has to be, really will end up being a transfer from a different area to this to make this work. And like you said, everything comes with a cost. So if we are going to be hiring, staff members, that's taking away that technically money we could be using for something else for this year, perhaps, or for future years. But again, we're by doing this, it's you're doing what we can to bring as many students back as possible to address the needs for this year.
What is your intent as we hit certain milestones to have, emergency meetings of the BOE so that we can approve and keep it ball rolling?
Yeah, if we can, again, I think, Stephen, I think the big thing is too, is we're looking into our budget to find out where is our absolute cap. You know what I mean? Because again, this is not areas that we had pre-budgeted for. So we also want to find out, what is that point in time where we'll be damaging other areas. You know what I mean? Like everything is a trade-off there. But we're continuing to expand. And I think at the very least right now, we felt with the KN1 as our initial jumping off point is a good start. And if it requires, as we said before, about special meetings, things like that, that is not something that we are taking off the table at all.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Patty, roll call for number 2.
Number 2, Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks.
Yes.
Thank you. Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Hell, yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I get a motion for number 3?
So moved.
Brian, second.
Second.
Dan,
Second.
Thank you.
any questions or comments?
I have some
have-
comments I'd like to make if permitted.
I have a comment too. Go ahead, Brian.
No,
As
Gail,
do
go ahead.
I.
Go ahead, Gail. We haven't heard from you tonight.
Okay, this is for clarification since I'm the first one who's called the vote. Okay, so what we're looking at is it's just to approve a motion to notify TEA that we are considering entering into a contract agreement. So that's all it is.
Yep,
Correct.
I can reread just a little blurb. It says, the motion under discussion simply authorizes the giving of notice required by a new law enacted last summer. Specifically, the district is required to give 90 days notice to the Tabernacle Education Association before it requests bids or solicits contractual proposals for subcontracting agreements. This is the first step designed to afford the association the opportunity to meet and consult with the district to discuss the decision to subcontract and to engage in negotiations over the impact of the subcontracting. And the
Okay,
board
so,
welcomes the association's input.
okay, so what I'm looking at is when you're reading under approval of the following motion, for me, the key word is the district's consideration of entering into a contract. We're letting them know that we are considering.
Exactly.
All right, so to me, considering is the key word. And the second, for Sean, from what I understand, if you did subcontract, the current staff gets first choice for the position, correct?
That I'm not entirely sure on. I think that comes down to how you'd work with the party for that fact.
Because I know with, I believe with Southampton and Chemung, their staff was offered to work for that subcon. Some of them did stay on and worked under them and some did not.
I believe, Gail, that is part of the agreement that you would make with the company. That is not, I don't think, specific.
Is not required by the statute.
By Chapter 79. Am I correct on that one, Susan?
You are correct.
Okay, so if you subcontractor, you would say, I want my staff to be given priority in hiring.
Susan, that'd be part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
that could be part of the negotiations, yeah. Or the proposals that you send out.
Okay.
And this is the only thing you're doing tonight is giving the association 90 days notice so that the rest of the steps can occur, because they can't occur unless you give them this 90 days notice.
Right, they have to know that this is under consideration. I keep emphasizing consideration. Okay.
Any other questions?
I have some comments I'd like to make.
Can I just ask one quick question, Brian, before you go? So Sean, this vote, I think we've established, is just to give us the ability to have the negotiation discussion with the TEA. You'll be able to get clarification moving forward before we would have an actual vote on any decision-making as to whether these staff members would be preferenced, correct?
That is correct. And there's nothing that's done. This is no even statement that the district will be entering into a subcontracting agreement, but the district can't even get any sort of, I'm saying this correctly, Susan, please let me know, any sort of bid proposals or so on until after 90 days after notification was made to the bargaining unit, and also to Public Employment Commission.
Yeah, so
Right,
the approval of
and
this
that
is required
negotiation.
to provide that conversation to move forward.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, you got something to say?
I do. So multiple people early this evening mentioned they understand the position we're in due to, Senate Bill 2 and the budget cuts. But then they also ask us to do the impossible and find cuts that don't impact the kids. We've been asked to dive deeper. We've been asked to make other cuts. One outsider even claimed there are always other cuts. Well, I think we all agree. That's why for several years now, we have been making other cuts. I'm sorry those coming from outside our district don't have that history. We have combined admin positions. We've reduced two full-time admins, some of the highest paid positions in the district. We have not replaced many folks who have retired. We had to make tough cuts to teaching staff. We relocated some grades from TES into OMS to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we also cut to the bone every aspect of the budget, from supplies to books to materials and everything else we could possibly identify. And we will continue to do that with every budget review. And at every step of the way, we as a board have been lambasted for making those tough decisions. And let's be honest, those were easier decisions than the ones we're forced to consider this year and next. I said it before, I'll say it again. Relocating certain grades into OMS was an absolute no-brainer from my perspective because it had the smallest impact on the kids of any other decision we will make from here on out. But still, we were crucified for it. And just to touch on some of the numbers that were mentioned earlier tonight by one of the commentators, who noted also that we totally understand what the S2 cuts mean. Figures are thrown out to the effect of staff cuts of 800,000, admin cuts of 200,000, 300,000 in savings from closing TES. All in all, it was about 1.3 million that the gentleman threw out there. And I mentioned a capital reserve of 500,000. I think we need to add some more context and clarity to those numbers. The healthcare changes that are allowed by the state that he referenced will actually cost the district more, not less. It will be cheaper for those who receive the benefits because more of those costs are paid for by the district under the new law. Every other expense item goes up every year. We have buildings, we have buses, we have fuel, we have everything else that goes on. And as you all experience in your own lives, every other expense item continues to go up. The capital reserve can only be used for capital expenses. Those are our boilers when they go, the roofs when they go, the big projects that you can't budget for out of your operating budget. That's why we have a capital reserve. And it's incumbent upon us to maintain a healthy capital reserve to not find ourselves without a roof one year. As of this upcoming year, the accumulated cuts are about 1.6 million, then 2.2 million the following year. Still, if you have new cost saving measures that don't impact the kids as we get through the next 1 million in S2 cuts, I look forward to hearing them. And I think this will start the conversation perhaps to hear that. Coming back to item number 3 in front of us now, I did not expect many people to come out tonight and applaud the proposal to consider privatizing staff, but I don't think it would matter what we consider at this point. No one will come out and applaud any remaining proposals. I get it. You hate the choices. And let me share this. I hate them too. But as Mrs. Egan said, heavy is the burden on those who have to make the decisions. And it does weigh heavily on me, but I'm comfortable in the fact that we have made all the less bad choices already. And I'm sorry to share that I am equally certain that we will have even uglier decisions to make in the future. We simply cannot lose $2.6 million and not make any cuts that impact the students. Every decision we make today and will make in the future will have an unfair impact on our students, and let's be honest, our staff too, indeed our whole community. With that said, I'm afraid the only thing that will stop these cuts is the state stepping in and doing what we all know they're ultimately aiming for anyway. Forced regionalization. At this point, I personally wish the state would step in and do just that. Stop the death by 1,000 cuts and take the mercy shot to the head. Force the inevitable to occur sooner before we are forced to make so many cuts that we may not even recognize this as a school. But then again, I know that position will not be applauded by many of those who've come out either. So in the end, we are stuck with a bunch of really bad decisions to choose from. And I'm pretty sure you're going to hate them all. I only hope you recognize the reality of the financial situation and lend us whatever modicum of support you can muster as we make these impossible choices, as at least a few of you elected us to do. So I intend to vote yes on item number 3, and I intend to do it with a heavy heart and without any real option. Wanted to know where I'm coming from.
Thanks, Brian.
Megan, I have one real fast. I just want to make the public aware for those of you guys who are maybe not have been here before. As a teacher, I'm a member of NJEA, and as such, I am required to abstain from this vote.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Fortunately, yes.
Dr. Jones,
Abstain.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker.
I need to abstain since I have worked with some of these assistants.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. Well, that hurt. All right, moving on, financials 1 through 9. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Vicky.
Second it, Brian.
Vicki, Brian, questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. Policy, motion,
So moved.
Second, Jones.
Kevin and Jones. Questions or comments? Seeing none. Patty?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mr. Lepsis, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm very sorry. It's late. Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you, and I apologize again.
No worries. Our enrollment number is 674. Do we have any unfinished business? Do we have any new business?
Actually, Meg, two really quick. In future board meetings, I'd like us to look at policy 9120 on public relations to incorporate how we utilize social media. I think right now, it needs to be clear that the board does not use social media to communicate with the public. And that anytime a board member is speaking in social media, that is their private opinion and not the opinion of the board. And I'd like to get that clarified, or we can have a discussion about that and probably get the lawyer's take on that at some point. And the other thing I want to also go under policy is 1648 on the restart and recovery plan, so that we could possibly incorporate how the milestones and how we're going to move forward, because it doesn't really cover recovery as we now know it and understand to go back to a 5-day. That's all I have.
And Steve, that second part, we actually started talking about that in the policy meeting today, so you'll see some of that in the next agenda. And I'll add the 9120 for the next agenda for the next policy meeting too.
Thanks, Kevin. You're ahead of the game as always. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Any other new business? All right. I want to thank everybody that's still hanging in there. We still got 101 attendees. Holy cow, and it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to open up the floor for public comment. Number 2, please state your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Remember, I just told you there's 101 people sitting here, so please stick to your 3 minutes. No one may speak more than once on the same topic. Please keep your comments respectful and non-defamatory. Keep in mind that it may not always be possible or appropriate for the board to directly answer questions during public comment periods. And at this time, you may speak on educational matters not of a personal nature. Do we have any hands? It's not the same as the last time. Okay, so we have Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, can you state your address, please?
Sure. Lisa Nunziato, 7 Mallard Drive.
Okay.
Alrighty. I appreciate what each of you are doing. I know it's a hard job, and thank you so much for taking the time to hear all of us comment. I'm just going to get right into it. My once vivacious 5-year-old recently took over 5 minutes to get out of the car to sled with a friend. His reasoning, I don't know how to be. He'd be the last kid that you think would say that. See, he went to school for a day and a half in a 50-day time frame. Let me repeat that. He went to school for a day and a half in a 50-day time frame. I watched my son crumble. The CDC updated their guidelines in December due to similar situations like what we experienced. I spoke up. I told administration about our situation in January. I provided the information you needed to know to learn that your quarantine protocols are excessive. It doesn't have to be 14 to 10 just because we are in the yellow. It can be a negative test, return in 7 days, or no test, symptom-free, return at 10 days, no matter the level. On top of that, you are improperly identifying anyone who has simply been in a room with someone else as a close contact. No, you do not have to send an entire classroom home. You are choosing to do that. I also spoke to the Department of Health. They clearly explained that they provided recommendations, not requirements, and it is up to the school district to decide. They went as far to tell me that we as parents can challenge them, the schools, but you may get nowhere as some schools are just choosing to be strict. You're choosing to do this. Please stop saying that the CDC and the Department of Health are requiring it. They are not. I know the CDC just came out with new guidance and more facts to support reopening schools for in-person. Will you choose to learn from my son's situation and choose to do the right thing? The CDC director quoted and clarified the recent updated guidelines. We are flexible with the 6 feet when there's low community spread. Most of the spread is staff to staff. It's proven. Just those 2 statements, among others from the CDC director, would allow us to get all of our kids back for 5 full days. So please cross off the social distancing and the planning to accommodate that. There is proof in other districts that they do not choose to do the 6-foot distancing, and they utilize barriers and masks and are doing just fine without the spread. Do the right thing. Live streaming. Ultimately, there is no amount of improvement of distance learning that you can do that will make it be a good platform for learning. However, you stated you couldn't get back to full in-person unless you improved the virtual learning. Okay, so there you have it. You've improved the virtual learning with live streaming. Now we can get these children back to full in-person. Actions speak louder than words for me. A week ago, I asked for a list of all the obstacles and the failed solutions that are hindering you moving forward with doing what is right for our children. Being that we, the public, did not receive a list, there is not one reason at this time for you to not be reinstating 5 full days immediately. This is being made more complicated than it has to be, I feel like. We are supposed to be here for the children, and at some point we are all going back full time. We are. So I'm going to ask that produce the written black and white list of all of your issues so that we can get to work addressing and overcoming each and every obstacle. We can take into consideration what the teachers need, what the parents need, what the students need, and collectively find a way to make this work. I'm really curious how much planning has occurred. Medford went back today, I think I've heard, and they've been working on their plan to return for the past 6 weeks. I really want to have a good understanding of what has been happening behind the scenes planning wise, and if we're planning to get back on March 3rd.
Lisa, your time is about up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amanda O'Hara.
Hello, it's
Hi,
Amanda O'Hara, 210 Oak Lane. I wrote something up, so I'm just gonna read through it. Teachers have a job to do, as do I. I work 50 to 60 hours a week. And for almost a year now, I've been a teacher and a personal assistant to my 2nd and 4th grader, telling them when Zooms are happening, when it's band practice, things of that nature. Sometimes working till 11 or 12 at night just to keep my head above water with my own work. I didn't sign up to be a teacher. It's not my choice of profession. We all choose our profession. And thank God for teachers. Mr. Crilly, Mrs. Crilly, Mrs. Harris, amazing. They truly are essential. And I know we are all truly scared of what's going on, but being scared to return to work because of COVID when you're an essential worker is not an option. Could you imagine what we would be dealing with right now if doctors and nurses or police and firemen decided they didn't want to return to work because they were scared or couldn't adhere to a 6-foot social distance recommendation? And I stress that word, recommendation, not a requirement. We are failing our children. The current videos such as Brain Bop and the Ed Puzzles are not an education, it's a cop-out. Not to mention Ed Puzzles very frequently marks correct answers wrong and gives incorrect answers to its own questions. Sadly, this has been expressed by several parents, including myself, and the response I received floored me. The response I received was, we are aware it's a program glitch and we mark the answers correct on the back end. So what they're really saying is it's no big deal that the programs we're using are giving the kids wrong information. As long as the end result looks like they got it right and they get a good score at the end, that's all that matters. I have personally witnessed a teacher give a math test, review the math test results with the kids, and then give them the opportunity to go back and correct and change their answers before she regraded it. The only reason for this, in my opinion, is to give a falsehood visual that these kids are doing just fine and the current status quo. This couldn't be further from the truth. They're failing because we are failing them. I am pretty certain I can speak for the majority of parents attending this meeting that I can no longer allow the district to fail my children and deprive them of the education they require and deserve, and the one I pay for with my ever increasing taxes. I understand that some teachers are scared to return back to school because of their personal situations. I understand that there are quite a few teachers that would like to return and are also scared to speak up. Since it doesn't look like we're ending this anytime soon, can we please discuss the plans to level out the days of in-person learning for the gold cohort? With the COVID issues right before the winter break and the snow falling during the break, the gold cohort has only been in school, I believe, 5 or 6 days total since before Christmas, which is significantly less than the blue cohort. And with more anticipated snowfall on Thursday, it can almost certainly be that Friday will be a green day. What are our plans to adjust that schedule as well? Mr. Bannon, do you have a response for that particular question?
In terms of the calendar itself, Ms. O'Hara, it's something that we are looking to adjust. However, it's tough thing, as you just mentioned, with more snow coming. If we keep on adjusting today, we're going to probably adjust again by next week. So we are looking as to when we can best adjust it with a better sense. But again, I think it would be foolhardy if we made that statement that we're adjusting it for this week, and then all of a sudden we get new snow that comes the next week and we're in the same pattern again. But it is something that we have been looking into as to how we can fix some of these issues.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a Farron. Kelly, that's you. Are you there, Kelly? You're not muted, but we can't hear you. Try again in a minute. How about we switch to Rebecca Warren, please?
Oh,
Hi, can you hear me?
oh, we have both of them
Now we
now.
got you both.
Oh,
Rebecca, could you?
sorry, I won't take long, I promise.
Yeah, Rebecca, just 1 second, please. Kelly, go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Ironically, I needed my children to help me with that. I guess that's the one good thing with this whole year is they've gotten exceptional at dealing with IT issues. So thank you to Riley and Caitlin.
I'm sorry.
I
can
just
I have
want
your
to.
name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Kelly Fearon, 11 Jessica Court.
Okay, thank you.
I want to preface this that I have spoken up at board meetings in the past in support of teachers. So what I'm about to say, please know, does not come easy for me. That being said, I took great offense to what I believe it was Ms. Toon said at the beginning, first public comment, that mentioned that though parents have a choice of whether or not to send their kid to school or keep them home, teachers do not have a choice. you do have a choice. You may not like it, but unfortunately it is the same choice that every single working person in this country has had to make this past year, either work or take a leave of absence. I'm a nurse working in an outpatient setting who has worked out of the home every day since March, except for 3 weeks when my center closed to figure out how it can operate safely in this pandemic, because they knew it was in the best interest of our patients to operate and do our procedures. My job is like other ones that cannot be done at home or over Zoom. Forgive me, but I feel education is one of those jobs. I know how hard teachers are working. I get it. I challenge you to find one person whose job is not harder now than it was last year. Other than the guy that drove the Kona ice truck last summer, he cleaned up. He's doing fine. That's why it boggles my mind why you're not the first ones leading the charge, coming up with ways we can do this. You have an extremely passionate and supportive group of parents behind you. Together, we can be empathetic, innovative game changers like we teach our children to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Rebecca Warren?
Rebecca Warren, 18 Worrell Road. And I guess I kind of was going along with what Kelly said. Mrs. Toon's words have created an even bigger gap between parents and teachers, which is sad because I've always had the greatest admiration for our teachers. And as a lot of people on here can say, I actually put a very long post on Facebook today defending our teachers. So it saddens me that as well, that I was very disheartened by what she said. I don't have a choice. I cannot afford to send my 4 kids to private school. This is my choice. I homeschooled for many years and I made the choice to move to Tabernacle and put my kids in this school because I felt like they were getting a better education than I was giving them at home. Unfortunately, homeschooling was given such a bad rap before, and that's what we're doing now, it seems. My children have lost so much this year. My 4th grader is close to tears every night as he says, what is there to get up for in the morning? I do the same thing every day. I sit in front of a computer screen, especially now since Gold has lost so many in-person days. So my question too was, what can we do to get our Gold kids back in for a few more hours in front of the teacher? My 4th grader is a very empathetic kid, and he needs that face-to-face time with other people. He sits on the other side of the screen and says the teachers don't even know he's there. I know there are a lot of fears right now. Everybody's fears are different. The teacher's fears, my fears, but my fears right now are my kids, and I need to figure out what we can do to get them back in because I'm slowly losing the children that I had before the schools were closed. So I'm just asking what we can do to help get these kids back in 5 days a week. And we're not saying we don't care about the teachers when we state our fears. We're asking the teachers to understand that the damage being done to our kids is our biggest concern. And to quote a famous movie, sometimes we need to get busy living or get busy dying. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, guys, I don't see any more hands. We still got 95 people hanging in there though. At this time, we're going to do our second executive session. Whereas statute allows for the public body to go into closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempt from the public, and whereas the regular meeting of this Board of Education will convene at the conclusion of the closed session at approximately 11.
10:50?
What?
10:50?
10:50. Let's say 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
But there will be no action taken, correct? Nod your heads. Thank you. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District will go into closed session for the following reasons as outlined by statute. Any collective bargaining agreement or the terms and conditions of which are proposed for inclusion in any collective bargaining agreement, including the negotiation of terms and conditions with employees or representatives of employees of the public body. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby declares that its discussion of the aforementioned subjects may be made public at the time when the board attorney advises the Board of Education that the disclosure of the discussion will not detrimentally affect any right, interest, or duty of the school district or any other entity with respect to the said discussion. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education, for the aforementioned reasons, hereby declares that the public is excluded from this portion of the meeting during which the above discussion shall take place, and hereby directs the board secretary to take the appropriate action to effectuate this terms of this resolution. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, please?
So moved.
Kevin,
Second, Judy.
second Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? And all abstain. Let's go. You know I'm coming back to this one, right? Back in session, all in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion? We gotta make a motion.
Yes.
So moved.
Vicky,
Second.
Kevin, all in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
All abstain? Anything for miscellaneous? Thank God. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
May I take it?
Dan and Kevin,
Got it.
all in
Thank
favor?
you.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Good night.
All
Good night.
all
Good night,
abstain.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.